The end is upon us, folks. The end is here. Marvel Comics is dead. Or at least dying. At least according to this article. Welcome to the Snatchcast. Raucus.
They're
I believe
dying.
you have...
Couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch of faggots.
I agree. Well, we're here with Manus, Satan and Satire, Raucus here in the skin of Schmeckle, and myself. And the fucking dogs even showed up.
Yep, the dogs are here.
Exactly.
I was eating a chocolate pretzel last night, and it was sprinkled with peppermint hard candy, and it was delicious. And somewhere in the back of my head, I thought to myself, I should take one of these pretzels and be a nice neighbor and give it to the dogs next door.
You should have. You should have, man. Why weren't you being nice to those dogs? Come on, man.
I don't know, man, because it pissed me off so much. I don't want to be nice and give them chocolate. You give chocolate to people that you actually like, that you give a shit about, that you want to live. Although,
this is true, but in the case of dogs,
perhaps I just goddamn shut the hell up.
Exactly. So, if you haven't heard by now, if you've been in the comic fandoms on YouTube, the comics geek groups and all that kind of stuff, a certain article has been making the rounds. I'm sure Brox will be looking it up eventually.
I actually have the article queued up. I'm very, very pissed off. These dogs have been quiet all fucking day.
And they only just started now, huh?
The dogs have not made a goddamn peep all day. And right as I hit the live button that we go live, right then and there, suddenly I don't know what it is. I think they can sense it. Maybe the fucking stray cats in the neighborhood can sense it, and they're just a bunch of assholes who are like, now we're gonna go piss off the dogs because it's that time of the night, and he hit the live button. I don't know what's happening right now. They have X-ray vision or some shit. I don't know what's going on, but I want to fucking kill all you four-legged little sons of bitches.
Yeah.
Nope, that didn't shut them up yet. I just want to keep talking shit. Right, fuck you guys. Fuck you dogs. I fucking hate this goddamn neighborhood.
I think it's just the way of things. We'll just soldier on and make do. So, what have you guys been thinking about since what you've heard so far about this whole Marvel Comics shutting down thing?
Well, honestly, I just entirely forgot about Bobby Drake, and y'all reminded me about Bobby Drake, and I was just reminiscing about how good that character used to be and how terrible it is now.
Yeah, that's pretty much the usual go-to of all this stuff. So yeah, here's the article. It's from Comic Book News. Now, I read this earlier today, and I actually came to the conclusion that this was mostly based on speculation, especially since the first fucking paragraph says being speculated by Disney. But the comic book industry is presently said to be in a state of collapse, and following the recent news of troubles with DC Comics, that's the part that interested me almost immediately. I'm like, wait, what? DC Comics is in trouble too? And then it started to click in my head. Oh yeah, they recently hired Zoe Quinn for their Vertigo fucking line because they're bringing back Vertigo. And they have an entire new set of comic books for Vertigo. Okay, I got you. So, yeah, apparently DC Comics is also in trouble. Now it's being speculated Disney may actually be considering shutting down Marvel Comics. This is something that a lot of nerds and fans have been nervous about, especially since the beginning when Disney bought Marvel. Like, do you guys remember all the fucking fears that were coming out with Disney buying Marvel?
Yes, I kind of do.
Vaguely, but a lot of it seemed to be real conspiratorial. Like that, sometimes it end up being right, but at the time, it still didn't sound very credible.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. When Disney officially bought Marvel, this was back in like, what it was, 2006? We got whispers of it. 2007, when it was confirmed it was going to happen.
Yeah, it didn't end up happening until 2009, right? Because I think it actually happened the same year I graduated.
Yeah. It was 2009, right after the massive success with the first intro into the MCU, Iron Man. Because once Marvel Studios, their media front for Marvel, once Marvel Studios had actually made a comeback and actually been successful with a movie of their own and everything, it just kind of made the pot that much more lucrative for Disney in Disney's mind. And it was for several years after that. Marvel and Disney was a fucking powerhouse in comic books. They were actually kicking DC's ass for a while. More people were buying Spider-Man comic books, X-Men comic books, Fantastic Four comic books. And then they kind of cut the fucking Fantastic Four completely out of their roster. They dwindled down the X-Men to almost nothing. And it was one questionable move after another. Spider-Man was being cucked by Black Canary. Mockingbird. Marvel's Black Canary, technically.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it became really, really annoying because Marvel just made one questionable move after another, and everybody started wondering, is this Disney? Because in the beginning, everybody's fear was Disney's going to control Marvel entirely, and it's going to change everything about Marvel. And half the fans said, no, you're being ridiculous. The other half of the fans said, no, totally, that's what's going to happen. 5 years later, that's exactly what started happening.
It's been a downward spiral for a little while now. But I imagine, like, I've always thought, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but when you have a big corporation like Disney, they'll just let you do your own thing. Yes, you make them money, but I mean, you still have the freedom to do what you can because they're too big. They can't manage everything.
That's true. And that's one of the reasons why they
try to micromanage everything, but that is technically an impossibility.
Well, here's the thing about when it comes to comic books and almost anything when it comes to, like, you know, these types of multimedia businesses and shit. They have different people in charge of different things. Like with comic books, they have their chief and editor, which is basically the head honcho, the guy that essentially controls everything. But then they have other editors, the sub-editors for these comic books and those comic books. Like if it's an X-Men comic book or anything mutant related, there's going to be one editor in charge of all of those books. If it's Avengers related or an Avengers comic book, they're going to have one person in charge of all of those books and such. And they have a bunch of different, like, you know, there's the chief and editor who's essentially the general. And then the other editors are pretty much their lieutenants and commanders. That's basically how it really works. And then with Disney, they have pretty much the same thing. There's somebody in charge of Marvel. There is at least one person from the Disney Corporation that is in charge specifically with Marvel. That motherfucker is probably the one who has actually been creating all the fuck-ups that's been going on with Marvel, every little bit of insanity and all of the goddamn controversies, because for some reason this person clinged on to the idea, if you generate enough controversy and hate with your product, it's going to make a boom in sales. We're going to see lots of numbers, but then it's going to dwindle down and we're going to get fucking nothing. So we got to keep doing it over and over again.
There is the idea that, like, there is no such thing as bad publicity. Even if something is, like, really, like, horrible and all that kind of stuff, it still gets people talking about it. And and sometimes that can work, but you know, controversy only works for so long. I mean, you can't do it the whole time.
That's true.
Right.
It has a limited shelf life, if you will. You can only use it for maybe one project, and then after that, you have to actually be serious about what it is you're doing. Like there could be a lot of people bitching about Deadpool, but then once the movie comes out and the people fucking love it, it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, you can't be controversial the second time around, which is why they didn't even bother for the second movie, because you know what you're in for because you saw the first one.
Well, Semaj, funny thing, there actually were a lot of people bitching about Deadpool. That's actually a common factor when it comes to Deadpool. You only ever get two kinds of people when it comes to Deadpool: the people that love him and the people that hate him. There's really no in between. There are no passive Deadpool fans where it's like, yeah, Deadpool's cool.
Yeah, but nobody was paying attention to that because they were just having too much fun watching the trailer. I mean, I'm not surprised there was bad things being said, but no one was paying attention. They're having too much fun.
True.
I only wish it.
That's well, yeah, I don't know. You could probably say I'm a passive Deadpool fan because I like him, but I don't read the fucking comics. like
Yeah.
ever.
Then you don't fall into the passive category. You fall into the category of I like him, because you don't passively like Deadpool. Like, oh yeah, Deadpool's a cool character, and then just refuse to read the comic books or anything like that. No,
I don't read the comic books.
no,
or
I
anything,
understand.
that's
I
why I say.
understand that. I understand that you're not a big Deadpool fan to the point where you're gonna wear the merch and buy the comic books and all that stuff. But you still
Well-
fall in line with the love category because.
Well, I do have a Deadpool shirt, but I got that for Christmas. So
Oh, gee, okay. So
check
you
me
have,
on all the technicalities.
here's my
Magnus, please keep talking. This is getting fun.
here's my point, Magnus. Here's my point. Why do you not hate Deadpool?
Because he's funny as hell.
There you go. You like Deadpool because he pisses people off because of how goddamn funny he is, and or just because he's funny as hell and such. You still fall into that category. There's really no passive liking of Deadpool. It is the weirdest phenomenon, but you can never really find somebody who's just that much of a passive Deadpool fan where they're like, yeah, I like Deadpool. And that's it. That's all it is. I like Deadpool. Because the second somebody starts talking shit on Deadpool, you're going to defend him. You're not going to just scroll past it and ignore it. You're going to defend him. You're going to step in. You're going to speak your 2 cents, and you're going to defend Deadpool.
Well, it's a good movie.
Magnus, Deadpool's a piece of shit. Fuck you.
Yeah, well, whatever.
See, we have the other side. They fucking hate Deadpool. They've presented no reason to hate Deadpool yet. There. Anyways, this is the main reason why I say this is really based off of speculation, not just because of the whole speculated Disney. Once you get down to this paragraph, it starts off saying Bleeding Cool actually puts it forth. The reason Quesada and Cebulski are doing the panel is in essence to save Marvel Comics, as sales have been dwindling for years, and they need to convince Disney that publishing Marvel Comics comic books, even though they are losing money, is still a good idea because it is the inspiration for markets to do fuck it, you can read it. For markets that do make money, such as Kevin Feige's insanely popular MCU. Now, the reason why this, of course, says this is because this part actually goes into explain that C.B. Cebulski and Joe Quesada being the former chief and editor, and C.B. Cebulski being the current chief and editor, or at least a former chief and editor. They're doing a panel at a Comic-Con soon, or some kind of a fucking convention. SXSW, I don't know what that is.
South by Southwest.
Really? Oh, interesting. Anyways, they're doing this panel to basically try to talk about how Marvel Comics has actually influenced a lot of things, a lot of successful movies and TV shows and such. And because Bleeding Cool, a company I have lost any and all faith in or trust in just about anything they say because of, their consistent saying that Ethan Van Sciver's a Nazi, John Malin's a Nazi. Right. What's your evidence for this? They disagree with us. Okay, that's, all right. Yeah, fuck you.
Well, actually, I think the question that needs to be asked is, so what's your fucking point? Is more like it.
Well, no, it's not even just that. It's Bleeding Cool puts opinion piece forward after opinion piece, tries to claim that they're 100% based on fact, even though it's an opinion piece, you fucking jackasses. And they've tried to smear multiple people's names, which, by the way, if Bleeding Cool hadn't been doing that with people like Ethan Van Sciver, John Malin, or even Richard C. Meyer, hashtag Comicsgate probably wouldn't be as massive as it is right now. Just saying. They created the very monster they were trying to destroy from the start.
Of course they did. What do you expect from these assholes?
Well, I mean, a lot of these news publications do try to create controversies and stuff like that to get views. And that's why the other thing about this to remember is, like, this could just as easily be another attempt to get more views. It might. I don't know. I imagine their current readership isn't really there, and maybe.
Of course, it's an attempt to get views. What the fuck do you think these assholes are after?
Well, and fair enough. I mean, everyone's talking about this. I imagine even us doing this stream has generated more views for them. And the odd thing is,
Maybe.
we very well might be changing Bleeding Cool to our side. which is
I
a strange irony that could
I
happen.
doubt it.
Oh, Object of Hate is in the chat, and this is actually an interesting point I did kind of want to tackle. There's the SJW theory of changing demographics, meaning they can afford to ditch one set of customers for another, except the other doesn't have money and isn't interested enough. This is actually very true. The majority of the people that actually started down this road of complaining about Marvel Comics, the lack of diversity, the lack of representation, the lack of this, the lack of that, so on and so forth, the majority of them were people that didn't even read comic books to begin with. They simply liked the characters and wore them on their shirts and jackets and talked about them saying this person's cool, that person's cool. And I wouldn't even be shocked if I found out that the only introduction to Spider-Man that these people ever really had was, one, the 90s cartoon, and two, the very successful Marvel vs. Capcom fighting game that came out sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s.
I wouldn't be surprised if even some of them are even younger than that, and their first introduction was actually the Sam Raimi movies.
Well, the majority of the people that were crying out against Marvel and DC for their lack of diversity and their lack of representation and such like that were actually full-grown adult women and men. That
Are you sure about that?
Yes, because if you looked into these people's bios, despite having the mind of a fucking child, they were in their 20s and 30s.
I'll take your word for it.
These were full-grown adults who were definitely not children, and they grew up around the same time as, well, at least me and Semaj, I would assume. But no, it's just I find it interesting because there's a lot of comic book websites out there. And I don't know all the names of them, so I can't actually direct you to them. But if you just Google this shit, you'll be able to find it with ease. It just take like, I don't know, fucking 10 minutes out of your life. But there are actual digital comic book pirating sites. And since Marvel and DC have gone out of their way to make almost every single new comic book digital, and they've even started going as far as actually making a lot of their old comic books digital. And there's sites that pirate this stuff. You can get for free the entire collections of various different runs from your favorite comic book characters. And one thing we have time and again known about some of these people is they prefer to get everything for free. They don't want a monthly subscription for things like, I don't know, I guess, getting Marvel Comics and shit. They don't want to have to pay $5 for this new issue. They don't want to have to pay $2 for this new issue. The majority of the people that want all this shit don't really have money, or they have money and they don't want to fucking spend it on things like this because they'd rather save up for the next fucking iPhone. Because, you know, iPhones are great. They suck.
Fuck you. I mean,
honestly, like that's your Canadian side coming out. iPhones are terrible. Shut up.
They really are. Get a Galaxy like the rest of the world, you fucking idiot.
At least I'll be able to still play Diablo Immortal when it comes out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, good for you.
That's such a good thing for you. That's great. Continue to show Blizzard their terrible ideas are actually lucrative somehow.
Well, at least I'll be able to communicate with my Chinese friends.
Yeah.
So can I. I have Google Translate, you fucking pleb.
Oh.
What the fuck? Do you think I can't copy and paste everything somebody said, put it in Google Translate, and know what the hell they're saying?
I mean, I just assumed.
How do you think I can fucking I decipher what somebody is talking shit on me in a different language? Like some chick months ago was talking shit on me using Twitter, which is automatically connected to Google Translate, and I literally just clicked the translate fucking button to know what she was saying. And the first response I said to her was, "You realize I can translate everything you're saying and still be able to respond, right?"
Sprockets, stop stalking your exes, okay?
I'm not stalking. I'm going to tell you right now, this is not someone I would have ever actually tried to date. She's batshit crazy, man. She's one of those people that unless you 100% agree with her, you're a scumbag, and she lets you know every fucking time because
so I probably dated her then.
Yeah, that's a good chance. See, I date the ladies who they don't attack me because I disagree with them. They attack me because I just said or did something really fucking stupid because I'm immature. There's a difference.
I honestly like, unless whenever like we go to sleep, there's not like a small percentage of a chance that she's gonna stab me in my sleep. I'm not interested.
Wow. Yeah. No, I don't think. I mean, I have actually dated some ladies like that, where there is that small percentage that she could very well stab me in my sleep.
Keeps things exciting.
But the majority of the crazy I have dated has just been, there's a chemical imbalance in their head. I would assume either that or they were just selfish cunts from the start. I don't know.
Well, there's a difference between dating crazy women and actually letting them like run a comic kind of thing. So I mean, like maybe we shouldn't let people like Kelly Sue the Connick work on something like Captain Marvel.
You know what's funny though? The one that could have potentially stabbed me in my sleep was probably one of the better exes I've ever actually had, because all the other ones were just selfish. They were just selfish women who disguised all of their sweetness or all of their horribleness behind like sweet smiles and compliments and shit. And I look back and I'm just like, that bitch really thought I was fat. Fuck her. She's a horrible person.
Well, see, like the only question that matters now though is, was she right?
Yeah, I mean, I am fat.
Okay, that's all we needed to know.
Yeah,
well,
but,
I mean, there is a certain point where you have to acknowledge this problem. I'm a little bit fat. Maybe they were right about that.
Look, I can say this much. I may be fat, but I'm nowhere near as fat as one of my friends who gets winded by breathing. So there's that.
What?
It's okay. I have fat friends.
If you don't have a fat friend, you're doing something wrong. It's
just because you have a fat friend doesn't mean you're an ally, motherfucker, or whatever. Whatever the social justice retards say.
He uses a snarky devil icon for his avatar. I'm pretty sure he's one of us. Just saying.
Right, yeah, but still.
The devil's looking at us sideways, right?
Somebody has to say it, just because that's the crap social justice types will say. You're just fat phobic. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure most people would be afraid of being fat.
The only time I'm fat phobic is if there's a really rickety building and some of the fucking monsters up there just like you're a bit too big beyond that swinging fucking scaffold. No, I'm good.
Oh, are you kidding me? I'm a fat person myself. Don't get it twisted. And I am probably one of the first people to criticize other fat people. There's a level of fat acceptance where I'm just like, you're fat, but it works. You're proportionally okay. You're fine. It's all right.
I would say to a fat person, hey, if you're good at your job, I don't care if you're fat.
Yeah.
Which was my feeling. Yeah.
Let me put it this way: that I drive a truck. I've seen motherfuckers that it's like I say, I've been having trouble, because I'm like type 2 diabetic, blah blah blah. But there's times when I see some of these motherfuckers that come waddling out of their fucking truck, and it's like, how the fuck do you pass the required physical to do this fucking job? I'm having trouble with it just being diabetic. It's not that I'm like horribly, horribly fat like I used to be when I was a kid, which is probably where the type 2 diabetes came in, and the fact that it's hereditary. But I see these motherfuckers come waddling out of their truck like these motherfuckers look like they're literal B word fat, where if they say a word that starts with a B, you could tell they're fat. Just because their B's will sound like
Bring me a buttered bagel. I was
that is B word fat, right? That is
I was resting on my belly and enjoy with a bowl of popcorn.
I'll take a tub of buttered popcorn, please.
I would like some buttered pecan ice cream along with plenty of buttered pecan syrup.
I,
Ugh.
as gross as that sounds,
That actually
I
sounds
actually
pretty
like
good.
that. I think it's hilarious listening to guys like that.
Every fat dude in the audience that is hearing either live or later is just like, damn, I actually got to try that shit now.
Oh God.
Well, but that's the whole thing. I mean, I'll criticize fat people because, you know, if you're fatter than I am, you need help. Like serious fucking help.
That's I will go ahead. I was lucky enough to be the fat guy who's also a giant, so most of my body does not look horrible. It's just you can tell I'm clearly fat, but I've also got like that height of over 6 feet going for me. So it's just like he's fat, but it's kind of stretched out in areas to where it looks a little more normal.
Is that like kind of the difference between like midgets and dwarfs? Like you're fat, but you're proportional. Like he's short, but he's proportional.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing. That's kind of the way the BMI charts work. Is it goes by your height and weight. Like they're trying to tell me that what is it, like 189 pounds is my ideal weight, and then I look at how heavily built I am, like muscle wise and everything else, and it's like, yeah, no, that wouldn't be possible without removing body parts.
The BMI, I actually remember taking a BMI test or some shit like that. I can't remember exactly why I remember all of this, but at one point it said my ideal weight should be roughly 225 to 235. And I started thinking about that and I was like, I'd be skinny as fuck if I had that weight though. Like, cause like looking at me and my height and they're expecting me to be just like really stretched out fucking, oh my God, what's his fucking name from the movies? Brad Pitt. I'd be really stretched out Brad Pitt from like, I don't know, fucking 12 Monkeys or Fight Club. That's what they want me to look like. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. No, I'm gonna be comfortable at 250 with a little bit more muscle and meat on my bones. I refuse to be blown away by a gust of wind.
or end up like Fat Bastard and have so much flappy skin on you after losing all that weight.
My
that
neck looks like a vagina.
a really windy day, you'll fly like a kite.
My really fat friend.
I believe that's why Terrence Pop calls that the flying squirrel suit.
No, funny enough, if my horribly fat friend actually did lose a fuckload of weight rapidly from whatever diet and shit, he would have a vagina neck. Like no questions. There would be no doubt in my mind that he would develop that fucking. It would start off looking like a turkey neck, but then it would slowly just design itself to look more like a vagina.
That's hot.
No, it's not.
Oh God, stop.
He's really fucking like.
That is not hot in any sense of the word, and I can't fucking believe you just said that.
It's the wrong kind of throat fucking you're thinking
Trust me, it will be when I get done with him.
Oh no, he wants to throat.
See, CB Saboski.
What is he holding, a candy bar? No, that's a phone. Never mind.
It's a Marvel thing. Yeah, no. When I saw this guy, he's a fat nerd kind of a guy. And he was appointed the new editor-in-chief or whatever at Marvel. Everyone was fucking happy. They were like, oh my God, he's going to bring changes. And the first thing he starts doing, starts firing people and canceling books. I remember I was like, holy shit, this is going to be fabulous. He's finally going to do stuff. This was like a couple of years ago or a year ago.
Year and a half ago.
Really? Oh God. It feels like it was like a long time ago. And he's disappeared. We don't hear from him ever again. And but we heard a lot about him in the beginning because of all the shit he was doing and all the canceling and firing people.
Well, the reason why we stopped hearing so much about him is because after CB Cebulski did exactly what a lot of fans wanted him to do, which was getting rid of certain writers and artists that were pretty much just terrible, and also canceling books that were just not selling and such. Everybody was like, yes, thank you, CB Cebulski. You man of men. Oh, it's wonderful. It's great. A few months later, those same characters that were supposed to be dead and gone for good started showing up in other books. And then a few of them even got continuations of their books starting at #1. They revamped some of those books and shit. And then everybody turned to CB Cebulski and was like, "You fat piece of shit."
I think, and we probably should give him a slight pass, because remember, what he worked for like Disney / Marvel before, and his job was to sell Marvel products to the Japanese audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very uphill battle to do, but he actually made things work. He worked with other promotional teams and whatnot, making various different like Japanese artists to work for Marvel and all that. He actually did his job. He pulled sales in Japan, which shouldn't have happened, but he managed to make it happen, and that's why he got the. It's one of the reasons he got the job in Marvel. But here's the thing: while he was in Japan, and I can't remember what he was, but he was using a pseudonym. He wasn't CB Cebulski. It was like Yoshido or something or other. And the SJWs were talking about how he was culturally appropriating Japanese culture, and it was like wrong for him to do so. And there was a hate campaign against him, and it started going in on all that. And there was articles being posted, and the train started going. Shortly after that, there was a video on on the Marvel YouTube page with CB Cebulski talking about how he's committed to diversity in comics and all that stuff. They fucking blackmailed him. It's what they did. They took this whole thing, and they blackmailed him and said, "You cut this shit. You make sure we still have our nice, comfy jobs here in Marvel, and we won't ruin your career and make you one of the most hated person in the industry right now."
I guess they don't understand how pseudonyms work and how pen names work and things like that, because CB Cebulski most likely did that because his literal job was convincing the Japanese market to buy Marvel Comics stuff. Hence the reason why we've had several different comic book characters adapted into anime. I don't know if anybody has seen these things, but we've had a few movies. There's an Iron Man movie. There's a Wolverine movie that is basically anime style.
There was a bunch, but here's the thing with those. Those were being produced at the time by Sony. Sony was the ones who were actually in charge of that kind of thing. I think he did help with that. But I mean, it was a Sony property, and that's why they actually canceled some of those. The other reason is that those Japanese people, they were drawing all the female characters like fucking anime babes with like
what's wrong with that?
Nothing at all. It was fabulous. Black Widow. Oh my god. They even had like Captain in the last. It was like Black Widow versus Punisher, and then towards the end, the Avengers showed up there, and you actually got to see Captain Marvel in there. And she wore the fucking ugly head mask or whatever it was, but she was as curvy as she should have been.
Yeah.
So,
it isn't so much the costume that people always have a goddamn problem with. It's the writing of what the character says and does, and also the look. Captain Marvel had, or at least Carol Danvers, has always been a blonde bombshell. So when you take that away from the millions of fans of fucking Carol Danvers, not necessarily Captain Marvel, but Carol Danvers, when you take that away from everyone, people are going to get pissed, because one of the reasons why they loved her so much was she was the blonde bombshell who could kick your ass.
What, you mean Carl Manvers, right?
Carl Manvers. And then this is one of the first covers that made people say that, with the exception of diversity in comics. But fucking look at Captain Marvel. Is that a woman or is that a man?
That's a man. You can't tell me it's not a man. But no. Here's another thing. You bring up the Iron Man.
Looks like she hates Steve Rogers.
It does. Here's the interesting part. Do you guys remember the anime-based comic book mini run that actually happened with Marvel?
Are you talking about one from the 90s or one of the more recent ones?
It was early 2000s.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't actually 90s. But back in the 90s, Marvel Comics was making a few deals with some anime studios. And basically, in the early 2000s, eventually, Marvel produced manga-style comic books.
Yeah, I remember that.
And all that stuff. Does anyone remember the fact that Iron Man was actually a chick? Think about this. Think about this for a second, okay? This was never designed to be more than anything but a short-run manga thing, okay? And when Japan got a hold of all of Marvel's characters, they were basically allowed to have this amount of fucking time to write these characters, draw these characters, all that stuff. Japan eventually gave us a female Tony Stark with big tits, who was Iron Man. Iron Man was legitimately a chick in this story.
Somebody find this. I gotta see this.
No one cared. No one gave a fuck. In fact, it was incredibly well accepted.
Well, hold up though. Here's the problem with that. What the problem with that is the fact that it wasn't the fact that they made Iron Man a chick that was the problem. It's the fact that when you write it in such a way that it is absolute shit and you should be ashamed of your entire life for even writing that sort of thing, that's when you start getting people who have a problem with this. So it's never actually, you know, oh, well, they made Iron Man a chick. Okay, fine, whatever, you know. That Marvel run back then should have been proof positive just on its own merits that, yeah, it's not the fact that you made, you know, Iron Man a chick. That was never the fucking issue. It was the fact that your version of a chick Iron Man sucks shit through a silly straw. That's where the problem lies.
Also, Justin Trudeau was on a cover of Civil War.
Yeah, let's ignore Civil War too.
Let's just go ahead and acknowledge the fact that Marvel likes to put faggots in their comics and leave it alone.
And that was mostly in their response because like the movies were doing Civil War, so they thought, oh, we needed like a Civil War 2 or something to tie in with the movies to an extent. Which I get the idea. That makes a lot of sense. Like when Deadpool, because nobody thought that Deadpool the movie was going to do like all that well, and it actually did really well. After its success, Marvel had Deadpool in almost every comic that you could think of. It was absolutely everywhere. It was ridiculous.
So this is just one cover from the Marvel Mangaverse. Look at, we have Tiger.
That blonde chick is Iron Man.
We have Captain America. We have the Hulk, and of course Bruce Banner. We have what I think is supposed to be the Wasp.
That makes sense.
Wasp.
Yeah.
And then we have Iron Man. Look at this.
Nutty?
Interesting. Yes.
It's got kind of an Adam Warren look. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let me look him up.
Either way, oh, by the way, this is supposed to be Doctor Strange. Either way, this was actually very well accepted. People actually really liked this, and there was an outcry for more Mangaverse. But again, it was a limited run type thing. It was just Marvel and an anime company basically working together to produce just this, just because they were having fun. This isn't the first time Marvel and Japanese studios have actually worked together. They've done it multiple times before, and eventually the Mangaverse gave more people an interest in possibly more anime at a later time and shit. So eventually we got the more anime stuff and everything. But yeah, female fucking Iron Man, no one cared. No one gave
a hell, wasn't there even a point in time where Pepper Potts became a sort of a version of Iron Man called Rescue or some shit?
Well, and that ran alongside Iron Man. Like the whole deal with Rescue is that she didn't want to have any weapons, but she did want to be able to help out and blah 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 and be able to save people, that kind of thing. So she had an Iron Man suit that didn't have weapons.
It had shields, but it didn't have weapons.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that kind of makes sense. If like Iron Man is the guy going around shooting people and using weapons, and Pepper is the one rescuing people, that's kind of a nice little combination. I can get behind that.
No, and for those part, everybody did, like, because that idea, or Pepper Potts originally came out as Rescue in, what was it, the mid to late 90s, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was mid-late 90s.
Which I guess I heard that there's rumors that Pepper Potts does get an iron suit in the next Avengers movie. Which, if they do, I hope they do Rescue, because that would make a lot more sense.
Well, it's just the fact that most of these fucking idiots I don't know. They want to claim that guys have problems with strong females, and it's like, no.
Have you seen comic book shop that obsesses over characters like She-Hulk, Wonder Woman, the original version of Ms. Marvel?
Well, that's just your toxic masculinity. You like
Really?
sexy women, yeah. Well, that's the kind of stupid shit they claim.
You
Yeah,
just like
because She-Hulk is so sexy.
Oh, she
She-Hulk
is.
is sexy. Fuck you. I don't care. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What was her name?
No.
Sigourney what about her name in Alien? Sigourney Weaver's character, I think it was Ridley or whatever.
Yeah,
Ripley.
Thank you, Ripley. I mean, strong female character. Nobody gave a shit. Everyone fucking loved that movie. There was no controversy about all that. Now, granted, towards the end, she was in that escape ship or whatever, and she was wearing some like underwear while she was on the ship. I will admit that it's a little hard not to get a boner over that.
Oh.
But
No.
Well, yeah, but she was wearing those 70s granny panty looking things. So it's
I
like,
thought it was like wasn't it like an almost thong? Hold on. I have to Google this now.
It was the bikini style panties from the 1970s, dude. It's just, that was just the style of those days. No, look. Here's the funny thing. Today on Twitter, I was scrolling through and I saw somebody had actually taken that Lisa Simpson fucking, presenting information to the audience.
Is this the Captain Marvel Wonder Woman one?
No, it's not really Captain Marvel Wonder Woman, because it's Lisa Simpson saying, if Sarah Connor or Ripley from Alien if those movies were made today, you would hate them too. Something along those lines. And so many people, or at least I've seen at least 2 to 3 people, have responded to that fucking person saying like, no, they were actually very well-written characters, and they were very interesting. They weren't even Mary Sue's. They got their asses handed to them a couple of times in their own stories. So, yeah, we would accept them without question.
So, is this what you're calling granny panties? Seriously?
well, for back then, yeah.
Maybe it's a context thing. I don't know.
Yeah, those are not.
She doesn't have much of an ass. I'll say that.
So, when watching Aliens, I guess like a lot of people are like, really into Sigourney Weaver from, the Alien movie and all that stuff. And there was Alien, where she obviously dressed kind of sexy. But when Aliens came out, was I the only one that kind of had a hard on for Vasquez?
No, dude. Do you know how many fucking marriage proposals that chick got from playing Vasquez? No, dude. You have to understand that there's stories out there. She was saying, I got so many fucking marriage proposals, just guys writing her fucking letters asking for her to marry him. And it's
Sounds
like,
all right.
it's like, I can fucking believe it.
Yeah. She was the tough character in that entire series. Again, do not get this twisted, you fucking blue hairs. You don't understand where we're coming from, because all you want to do is conflate the argument and or strawman the fuck out of whatever the hell we're saying. We obsess over characters like fucking Ripley, like Sarah Connor, and like Vasquez, a chick who comes out of cryo sleep, cussing up a storm, flipping dudes off, and at one point even knocked one of her own fucking coworkers the hell out because they said something sexist to her. Sure, we hate women. Okay, yeah, we don't like.
And shit. What
okay.
and what was her job exactly? If I remember right,
She
was
was
like one of the heavy artillery motherfuckers.
She was the right flank heavy guns.
Exactly.
That was legitimately her job. The guy that worked with her that hardly ever spoke, her partner, her best friend, was left flank. That was their job, was to be the heavy artillery, or basically the heavy guns, who would go right and left and just fucking spray and pray. I don't. She even went out like a boss because, again, one of her fucking partners, well, somebody she fucking hated in the beginning, but the dude was about to go out with a grenade, and there was no way out.
And she fucking grabbed onto it like, well, let's do the thing.
Yeah, let's fucking do this thing. And she took out, along with that fucking piece of shit lieutenant, a fuckload of the aliens that were actually swarming them. So again, we totally hate strong women. despite having massive rage boners for fucking strong women. And when I say rage boner, I mean like we're angry that we can't do anything except jerk off with it.
Yeah, pretty much. That is like the worst kind of rage boner. Is
Well, some of the other
all I can do is jack off to this. I can't actually, enjoy the,
well, some other strong female characters that no one raised a fuss about. We got Kill Bill, the bride.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nobody gave a fuck that the main character was the bride. Everybody saw, oh, it's being produced by fucking Quentin Tarantino. Hell yeah, I'm in. Sign me up for that shit. Oh, the female character is the main character. It's gonna be good.
Okay, yeah, fine, whatever.
Yeah, no one.
It's assassins and martial art. It's cheesy martial arts movie with fucking David Carradine
and also they never sexualized her in the movie. I mean, she was like almost always wearing some form of clothing.
Well, the whole fuck thing was about as sexualized as it got.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's a literal fucking rape victim because she was being raped while she was in a coma and shit. And her response was murder the two men who were actually doing it, or at least murder the guy who was doing it, like, helping all of the other fucking assholes doing all that shit and everything. She murdered them and then moved on with her fucking life to go and kill more people who tried to kill her.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean...
Well, she also took his car or truck, the pussy wagon.
Pussy wagon.
I would so totally drive a truck called the pussy wagon.
I'm slightly inclined.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I am fairly certain that when I watch this movie now, or see this car, I automatically assume that it's owned by Magnus. There's
Well, wait a minute. I got to bring this up since we're talking about the whole Captain Marvel thing. Has anybody seen Alita Battle Angel besides me yet?
Yes.
I haven't yet, but I was.
Oh,
I was actually...
my fucking God. Go watch. Go. Just. I don't give a fuck whose soul you have to devour or sell to do it. Just go.
I'll probably go and check it out. I've been hearing a lot of good things.
I'm even talking about like seeing it again tomorrow. I mean, it's such a good movie. And I could sort of see why this is going to be on the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to this whole female movies thing. Because, I don't know.
You know what I found interesting is after the, I guess you could say, somewhat successful response that a lot of people have had to Alita Battle Angel, the actress who plays Alita, she, in an interview, basically said that growing up, there were a lot of male characters that, she actually liked, she was a fan of, and that she could identify with. And, that's okay. Now there are some really interesting, strong female leads that boys can identify with. And that's okay, too. And I was like, yes, fucking goddamn it, yes. I love the fact that there are actually strong female characters that my nieces can actually look up to and actually enjoy. But I also like the fact that there's the possibility that even my nephews would be able to look at these characters and be like, that chick is badass, man. She will fuck you up in 2 seconds.
Right.
Well, that was kind of part of the whole fun of the whole Alita Battle Angel thing, was the fact that they did and the funny thing is, I'm not as familiar with the manga as a lot of people are, because I'm just not really that interested in manga. But at the same time, the people that have seen it, that know the source material, have said that was as accurate to the source material as it could be for a movie. So it's like, you know what? That sounds good to me, because I'd only ever seen Battle Angel Alita, the original, the anime version that you see there on the go back one.
Yeah.
The one on the left. I've seen that one.
And oddly enough, in some parts of the world, here in Canada in particular, you can actually see the movie on YouTube because it's such an old anime that people don't care if you put it on there or not.
Old anime, fuck you, shut up.
Well, it's a I mean, it's a lot older than you think. But anyway,
you shut up. I'm not that old.
You're old as fuck. Don't even try to.
Yeah. In any
I know
case,
I'm
I
old.
mean, it's on there. You can probably watch it. Like here in Canada, I can. But with the mega success that is, I'm pretty sure they're going to like probably redub it and re-release it in HD or whatever, and the new Netflix series will probably come out of it.
Yeah, most likely.
Which will all be CG, which kind of sucks because I like hand-drawn anime.
It's
Anyway.
where I get pissed off at fucking Hollywood. They find out something was successful, and all of a sudden they gotta milk the shit out of it until it's dried up. And I'm just like, can't you just let me have this? Can you not just let me enjoy, like, reminisce on good shit from my past and just smile with fondness? Instead, you got to keep presenting it to me in new forms nowadays, and I'm just like, stop. Well, what about the people who might want to be fans of Thundercats? They would love to. I don't need to see this version of it, you goddamn assholes. Fuck off. If you want to if I want to make new fans of an old cartoon, I'll just show them the old cartoon. I don't need you to redo the fucking cartoon.
Yeah,
Well,
no shit.
I will say, like, this movie, it did finally break the stigma with like anime live action that suck, because they've almost always sucked. You had Death Note, that was like no good. Ghost in the Shell.
Please let's not. Ghost in the Shell wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great.
I think it was terrible, but that's me.
Let's not forget the most atrocious live action anime
How
that's ever
dare
been
you
done.
bring up Dragon Ball Evolution? How dare you?
Honestly, no. I've seen one worse than that.
Oh,
The Attack on Titan, the Attack on Titan live action.
well,
Jesus Christ!
Well, to be fair,
I couldn't make it past 25 minutes. I was like, no, I refuse to watch this. This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've watched snuff films.
Okay, hold
on. Let me say, to be fair, that was a Japanese live action. Okay, they have their own problems. If it was an American one, maybe it wouldn't be so bad.
Well, yeah, Japanese live action always have the same problem, is that it's funny, over in a animated industry is not as great. In Japan, it's almost the exact opposite. It's like that, like one of the most popular fucking things in Japan is One Piece, and it's like, I know because I actually saw a fucking ad for was it like a job search fucking site that has like this using One Piece as like advertisement material, and it's like that's almost like the way, you know, you see like Taco Bell use like Captain Marvel or some other hero movie to sell their tacos and shit, and it's like, yeah, in Japan the animation industry is bigger budget, I guess, than their movie industry, which is weird, but hey, you know.
Well, it's because it's the most popular format that they have when it comes to their multimedia corporations and such. More people are interested in anime, manga, and light novels of stuff that will eventually turn into manga than pretty much anything else. It's just a preference thing. They love their TV shows, they love their movies and everything like that. But at the same time, I think Japan at some point, the people collectively just got this thought in their head where they're like, we want to be like America, but not really.
Well, I just like there's one thing that's kind of bugged me, like over like some of the greatest film directors of all fucking time came out of Japan in the 40s, 30s, 60s. Like they had some of the best fucking movies of all time. Like the Criterion Collection has like is like almost all French, American, and Japanese films. And now they make nothing but trash. Like Japan hasn't had a good auteur in like 30, 40 years.
Yeah, they're not making Seven Samurai movies anymore. Now they're making remakes of anime and they're doing it live action, and everybody's just like...
part of the problem with that is because all the money comes from the popularity that happens over here, which is why you're seeing a lot of these movies get made. Like, anime was actually going down in popularity in Japan, but as it was going down over there, it was increasing in popularity over here on this side of the globe. And so we're seeing a market that's tailoring itself more for Western interests. which is good and bad in a couple different ways. It means that some of the stuff that we really like Dragon Ball, is coming back with lots of new movies, but it also means that nothing new is really hitting the market.
So what you're saying is I'm not a degenerate. It's just Japan's fault.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
They exported their degeneracy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kind of.
They presented me anime titties, and I welcomed it with open arms.
Yeah, but then you got social justice retards these days who do nothing but bitch about the anime titties, and it's like, are you people fucking shitting me? The thing that made us interested in anime in the first fucking place was the titties, and you're bitching about that. Why?
I don't know. I just want them to give me Keijo season 2, please.
You're not going to get it.
I just can't get. I'm still mad. Keijo.
I was just waiting for someone to start the sentence. I came for the titties, and then so I can interrupt them. Right there.
I came for the titties.
Hey, we know.
I figured I'd throw you a bone there, bud. So
I appreciate it.
Well, technically, that was what attracted me to anime in the first place. If you want to get really technical about it, because I mean, I the first anime I ever saw, I'll just be honest about it, was a little ditty called Outlanders, and it was based on a manga series by the same title. It wasn't anything remotely like the original title, but that didn't matter, because I'm watching this and going, I'm watching it thinking, okay, so yeah, this is animated. It looks okay. Holy shit, there's a half naked chick running around killing dudes with 56? A sword.
Magnus, how old are you?
I just said that was the first one I saw. They had it at Cockbuster Video. Shut up.
I don't dare scroll down. I remember also, oddly enough, this one is also on YouTube.
Okay, 86. Sorry, never mind. I saw something about Outlanders in 56. I was like, Jesus, Magnus, how old are you?
Well,
I'm not that old. But no, see, I was in high school, and like I said, I went to Blockbuster Video, and they had some anime. I don't think they necessarily knew what they were, renting out here.
Well, I'll fully admit this. There was a rental store in my city when we moved in here, and they had anime that you could rent, but they didn't know the difference between anime and hentai. And so that was
kind of the thing. Well, I mean, one of the first things you see, that outfit on her, she jumps out and starts killing soldiers, like military soldiers, like full decapitations and everything. And I'm watching this like, okay then, I think I've got something new I need to look for. And it was just like, okay. So that was how I first got introduced to anime, and that's what got me started. And then I started finding more interesting series that had less dirty jokes, less nudity, but was still really good. And that was pretty much it. That's how I got started in anime.
I remember
they were gateway titties.
Gateway titties, exactly.
Let's see. I remember. I'm not scrolling past this one. Some of the anime I would watch on television was always the family-friendly stuff, but some of the more specialty channels would come out, and they would have anime shows like late night, more adult kind of animes. And one of the first ones I saw was a show called Tank Police.
Oh, Dominion Tank Police.
I fucking love it.
Was it Dominion or New Dominion?
It was like the OVA. Or no, it was the movies. I didn't know about the TV series until after I not accidentally, but I purchased it and I didn't know it was a TV series. But I fucking loved it. This show, it's silly, but it's so fucking good.
Well, of course it was silly, but that was sort of the big draw of it, was the fact that it was, I mean, for fuck's sakes, the police, you're seeing the picture. That is a small tank they built for her, for Leona, out of the remains of like the biggest tank they had, which belonged to oh fuck, what was his name? He was like the
captain or the guy in charge.
he was the captain, but he wasn't like the captain. He was more like the lieutenant commander, like the second in command kind of guy.
And I think they appointed her because she was a woman, because they needed some quote unquote diversity or something along those lines. So
that was what made it so funny, because that show actually took a whole diversity hire scenario and not only made it entertaining, but it was fuck that, you got to admit that whole show was fucking hilarious.
I think they approached it quite well, because it was the same thing. Here's a woman person, you're going to train her and have her pilot tanks and stuff. Be a part of the tank. By the way, the reason why the police have tanks is because crime has gotten so bad, and the cops need tanks to handle the crime scenarios. That's why they have it. Yeah. But yeah, they told her, you got to be there, and it's of course all men, but I mean they made her she made, I guess, a custom little tank for herself. She comes from the police that ride motorcycles, so it's the thing that works for her.
She was a motorcycle cop that went to the tank police.
Now,
and here was the best part. You would think, well, it's a chick, what is she gonna do? And no, she became even more gung ho than the lieutenant or the guy who was who had the giant tank. That's what made it so fucking hilarious.
Oh, and then she has fun with it later on in the second movie. I'm like, oh god, this sweet little cop woman goes back and she's like a fucking bloodthirsty almost killer. Like, holy shit, I love it. But
she becomes a member of the tank police, like full fucking tilt.
And this is kind of like the tanks that they would pilot. It's kind of weird sci-fi kind of thing. But I also want to show you, this is one of the enemy tanks that they had to go up against, I think, at the end of the first movie. But they also have to deal with creative weapons, and I thought this was hilarious.
The Erectocaki,
these fucking they drop these what they think are mines.
All right,
they order this off the black market. All right, they order off the black market, and they work. They're little. You look at the bottom corner, they got these little plates, and then they would blow up into these giant cocks. And they would knock the tanks right over. So they did their job.
I have to say it. Semaj, we really do have a problem here, because anytime Schmeckel is not around, you and I weeb the fuck out, and we cannot be stopped. This is all we talk about.
Well, it's got worse than talking about fucking cock mines.
That's why and look at where we eventually go. We talk about anime, then we talk about another anime, then we talk about another anime, and then eventually it comes to phallic weapons and cock mines.
Look, I'm just saying. I'm just saying, dude. We can appreciate the cat twins of this wonderful show. This is
Anna and Uni Puma. Yeah, those two are part of the reason why I'm not a full blown furry, but kind of get the joke.
It's hard not to at times.
Well, I mean, I grew up with Thundercats, and then I find animes like that one with Anna and Uni Puma, and it's like, Japan, what the fuck are you doing to me?
I didn't realize I was this level of degenerate, but okay.
Yes.
That is kind of how it works.
I would agree, but my running bit online is furries are food, so no, I can't.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fuck my food, but I mean, I can't resist if a chick decides to put on some cat ears, a cat tail, and then just, I don't know, a fucking collar with a bell on it and shit. I might just try to make that bell jingle so much it breaks.
The other thing to keep in mind is that the creator of Tank Police is also the same creator of Ghost in the Shell.
Not surprised.
Masamune Shiro.
Yeah, if all you've ever seen was the Ghost in the Shell movies, which are super serious and stoic and all that other kind of stuff, and then you realize that the original creator in the original manga was just as silly as anything else. Okay, well, it's silly but fun. I mean, the guy knows how to make what he makes. Anyway, having too much fun
We were,
with this.
we were supposed to talk about Marvel collapsing and also Justin Trudeau being a major fuck up.
Oh God, Trudeau. Oh, he's not. I partied. That's why I made that fucking drunk video. But I partied, and he's not coming back for a second term. So he's gone one way or the other. But the real question is, are they going to kick him out, and he's never going to come back? He's not going to fill the rest of his term. I'm like, oh shit, this. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well,
wait, how bad did he fuck up?
Multiple times. I mean, he's been guilty of like multiple ethics violations, and one of his cabinet ministers who wanted to come up and answer questions and testify and all that kind of stuff, she was fired and apparently forced into silence due to vague threats. So she finally came forward and started talking about various different threats. I missed that, so I have to catch up on it. But everyone wants him gone, except for some of his cabinet parties, like the Liberal Party. So, I mean, we're looking at most people want him gone, and he's only in power for like maybe another month at the most. I don't see him still being here. That's just my speculation, though.
Yeah, basically, from what I can gather by what a lot of people have been saying about Trudeau on Twitter is he fucked up on multiple levels. Like, he did stuff that is just not just highly illegal, but extremely frowned upon because he screwed a lot of other people out of jobs or some shit like that. But he was trying to protect jobs, which is fucking weird.
Well, that was his argument, but
he withheld information. He made threats to people. He fucked up big time. Like, the only way he could have fucked up more than he fucked up is if it comes out he legitimately did sexually assault a woman. Like, that would be the only way that he could have fucked up even worse than he has fucked up. But he's fucked up to the point where basically the Canadian government is looking at it like, well, you're not going to continue in the office at this point. They'll probably let him finish his term for like the remainder of how long until you guys have another election and everything like that. But like most of his power will be stripped from him. He will really just be a guy who has a paycheck for doing fucking nothing. Continue being your figurehead. And then when the election comes around, his name will not be on any ballot whatsoever. He's official. He's done with politics altogether. Like, this is basically them telling Trudeau, you're gonna fucking be retired forever.
Well, now I just wonder if Marvel is still gonna keep putting him in their comics.
No.
I'm gonna say most likely not.
No, they probably will, because there's still a lot. Dude, you've got to understand, there are people on those sides of the fence, on the extreme left. There are people out there that absolutely love convicted murderers, convicted rapists, simply because
as long as they have the right kind of politics. Yeah.
I did want to say, like, I did tweet out earlier that I wished I grabbed a copy of this book, because although I didn't like it, or even Trudeau, this book will go up in value if he gets kicked out of politics and all that. I'll let you know, we've never, as far as I can tell, never impeached a prime minister before. We've never kicked him out of office. Chances are, if he becomes the first, this book will be fucking valuable.
You know what I find funny about this cover, though?
What?
Look at it. It's called Choosing Sides, right? And it obviously has Justin Trudeau, showing Marvel has clearly chosen Justin Trudeau's side. But look in the background. You see Iron Man?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, they were also on Iron Man's side. Iron Man was the one who was actually correct in Civil War II by this cover's fucking appeal. Looking at every aspect of this cover, it's not Captain Marvel in the background. Carol Danvers, the one that Marvel is now pushing and basically trying to force down everyone's throat, which is not working, because there are stacks of her books in my comic book store, and they're not buying anymore. They don't want it, because nobody fucking wants those books, and they can't actually send them back. They want to get rid of them, but they can't do anything except set them on fire.
And it doesn't help that Marvel doesn't have a buyback feature.
Pretty
so that
much.
means the stores are stuck with them.
Yeah.
So the most they're going to do once they go bankrupt, they can use the fire they're going to burn it with to try and keep themselves warm.
Yeah, but if you pay attention to this cover, it is clearly, you know, Justin Trudeau and everything, but there's Iron Man in the background. When it came to the argument of who was actually correct in what they were doing during Civil War II, 100% it was clearly Iron Man. They were with Iron Man.
Oh yeah, indeed. And then Justin Trudeau gets a good whack there at Tony Stark.
Oh yeah, of course.
It did happen in the book, by the way, that they had a little boxing match.
No, I understand in that specific issue because I actually have the main run of Civil War II, where it's basically the 8 issues they presented for the main story and all that such. It's not in the main story. You have to go to one of the side books for this.
Oh please, fucking Justin Trudeau would knock out Tony Stark. Yes, Tony Stark isn't like he's not like Captain America. He's not built, but he fucking works.
No, here's the part that actually is very upsetting. They've done away with the whole Tony Stark doesn't know how to fight bullshit in the comic books a long time ago in the 616. At this point in Tony Stark's career, he has been trained in boxing, kickboxing, judo. Not a whole lot of judo, but some judo. He is actually fairly decent at hand-to-hand combat. He would not have lost to Justin Trudeau in a boxing match whatsoever.
Yeah. Well.
Especially since also at this point in Tony Stark's career at the story, he is, for all intents and purposes, a technical enhanced human. He's not exactly on the same level as Captain America, but he has actually enhanced himself through different types of nanotechnology.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, Tony Stark would have fucking wiped the floor with Justin Trudeau.
Mm-hmm. Tony Stark would be able to wipe the floor with an average boxer. Like the elites, nah. Tony would get worked hard, but like an average boxer, you know, somebody who just does it for to keep in shape or something like that. Somebody who goes to the gym practically every day, but still doesn't go professional with their boxing or anything like that. Yeah, Tony Stark would fucking beat their ass too. But like if you put Tony Stark up against like say Mike Tyson in his prime, Tony Stark has no chance. He would get knocked the fuck out.
Oh yeah, for a time there, Alpha Flight and Captain Marvel would have a book series together. If you don't know who Alpha Flight is, it's supposed to be the Canadian Avengers. It's okay if you don't know who they are. No one does.
Puck was the shit.
It's funny though because Alpha Flight originally started off as their Canadian X branch or X-Men branch, but yeah, eventually it just turned into their Canada's fucking Avengers. Despite everybody being a mutant, they're still considered the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could say that.
And then Excalibur is basically just the UK branch of the X-Men, but then they became the UK branch of the Avengers. It was really weird. Like, okay, just try to, I don't know, I guess be X-Men, but stop trying to be the Avengers all the fucking time. The Avengers are the Avengers. You're never going to be the Avengers. The Ultimates, Space Avengers. God damn it.
Space Avengers.
We have Galactus on our side only because Richard fucking Franklin sent him to work for you. God damn it.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Have you guys heard about the early reviews of Captain Marvel?
No.
So the early reviews come in. Now, early reviews are essentially people who have to sign various different embargoes and whatnot, so they can't spoil anything. And in order for the privilege of seeing the movie early, you have to say nothing but nice things about it. So that's why you have to be careful about what they say. So when the early reviews came out, the one thing that they all said consistently, the one good thing about the movie, they like the cat.
I wonder why.
I you know, that's a slightly disturbing thing to hear. If that's the best thing, not excellent character development, wonderful pacing, nothing like that. No. We like the cat. I'm scared.
The cat was the best part of the movie, and you'll never convince us otherwise.
Who did that? Who did this art? Who did the Captain Marvel side by side with Captain Marvel? That's a disgrace.
Oh, that was part of their Legends line.
That's disgraceful.
That's when they had like the new characters with the old ones.
Do you understand why that's disgraceful?
Well, I think it was a time travel thing, and I believe in this particular issue, which is a weird one, which Diversity in Comics, I believe, talked about it. This was something like it was before they met, and they couldn't quite figure out, but she had to figure out a way to get back. But he was making comments about her being a butch woman, and actually call them Carl.
Shh. We can't say that.
Of course we can. We can say whatever we like.
So people were very confused. Are you guys making a backhand slap or something? No one could figure out what was going on. So yeah.
That was probably an example of somebody in Marvel who was actually very upset that they were being forced to do something like this, and actually understands why it's disgraceful, or the fact that it is disgraceful. Because one of my biggest problems that I've always had when it came to Carol Danvers Captain Marvel is that this Captain Marvel on the left of Carol, not your digital left. But anyways, the one with the dude with the red suit, that is the original version of Captain Marvel from the Marvel stories. And that is actually Carol Danvers' ex-boyfriend. And he was secretly a Kree soldier who was actually on Earth, and we find out that his name is actually Marvel, and he is a legitimate captain in the Kree army and everything, but he came to Earth for evaluation, blah, 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 found that the people here were worth saving, blah, blah, blah. Continue on with the story. Eventually he dies sacrificing himself, but not before, of course, transferring some of his power over into Carol, because through an accident that he helped her survive, she gained some of his power in some strange way. Anyways, Carol, from that point on, eventually donned a costume calling herself Ms. Marvel because she was dating Captain Marvel. But then he died in the comic books because he sacrificed himself. She swore she will never go under the name Captain Marvel, but this was a secret promise to herself, because even though she was his technical sidekick and his actual girlfriend, she would never disgrace him by taking the mantle, because there was only one Captain Marvel in her mind. Shortly after his death, however, another Captain Marvel came about, Monica Rambeau. Monica Rambeau donned the identity of Captain Marvel, and Carol didn't really have a problem with this. Carol herself would continue to be Ms. Marvel, but she didn't necessarily care that Monica was actually the new Captain Marvel. Eventually, though, Monica didn't want to be Captain Marvel anymore. Her short run as Captain Marvel was basically, I'm going to become the new Captain Marvel, but then realized, you know what? Using a dead man's identity was a bad idea. I'm going to actually use my own identity. Her powers aren't even necessarily that similar to Captain Marvel's. So she eventually started calling herself something different. I think she went by, what was it, Prism?
I thought that was her daughter. Maybe
it might be her daughter. Well, no, because there was a lot of confusion. Monica Rambeau, is she?
Oh, hey, you know what? What if they're playing like 4-dimensional chess, and the big reveal towards the end of the movie is that Captain Marvel actually dies and passes on her powers to Monica Rambeau.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Who is actually in the movie, because Captain Marvel, or Brie Larson's character there, she's an Air Force pilot, but you see another black woman who's also an Air Force pilot. That's Monica Rambeau.
No, that's
that would actually cover their token quota.
No, that's not Monica Rambeau. That's Monica Rambeau's daughter.
No, mother. That's her mother.
Sorry, mother.
Right. Oh, right. Okay, yeah. My bad.
Monica Rambeau she is actually alive though in the movie. I think she's a little girl at that point.
That's true. It is in the 90s.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in the 90s. So Monica is supposed to be a little girl in the 90s and such, and her mother is Carol's partner when it comes to being a pilot in the air.
When it comes to being a lesbian, you mean?
I guess so. But yeah, Monica eventually ditched the title of Captain Marvel because she didn't want to be the second Captain Marvel. She wanted to be the first whatever she was and such. So she eventually dropped the title and kind of disappeared from the comic books for a while. And she eventually made a comeback using the same kind of costume, same symbol and everything like that. But now she goes by a different name. I want to say it was. I want to say that her name was Prism. That might have been her Spectrum. That's what it was. She
Oh, then I was still wrong then.
yeah. But yeah, Monica does come back in the comic books, and Carol is still Ms. Marvel. And at one point, before she becomes Captain Marvel, Captain America asks her, why don't you take the name Captain Marvel? It's been years since Marvel died. And, you know, there is no new Captain Marvel. Nobody's actually worn the costume, blah, blah, blah. Carol says she doesn't feel like she deserves the title. But on top of that, she doesn't want to really disgrace her ex-boyfriend or her dead boyfriend's name by taking his and maybe doing something stupid under that name and everything like that. And then a few fucking issues later, suddenly Carol's like, you can call me Captain Marvel. Okay. I didn't really mind necessarily Carol becoming Captain Marvel. That's fine. The natural progression is the sidekick would usually take up the mantle when the main hero goes away, hence Bucky being Captain America for a while and all that shit, or even the Falcon becoming Captain America for a while. I get it. The sidekick usually does take up the mantle when the fucking main person goes away and shit like that. That's kind of what sidekicks are actually supposed to be, really. It's why Dick Grayson wears the Batman costume way more often than any other Robin does in the actual comic books and shit. But for them to have just disgracefully just one day decide, now Carol's Captain Marvel, fuck off. Oh, fuck you. You couldn't have done something a little better than that.
Of course not. What do you expect? What do you think these people have talent or, you know, something where they could just like figure out a better way of doing things? What the fuck, dude?
Twisted thing is I gotta say, some of them actually do have talent. I'm not even gonna hide this fact. Some of them actually do legitimately have talent. The problem
of them.
Yeah, the problem is that you end up discovering or realizing that there isn't just one writer on the book. There's several. There isn't just one artist on the book. There are several. It's not like it was back in the golden days or even the silver age, or even like the prime days of comic books where you would have one, maybe two writers, one, maybe two artists on one book. You have multiple people on books, so the dialogue is going to come off really fucking weird, like what they're doing with the X-Force comic books right now. Everybody in that team who's a full-grown fucking adult, who should be in their 30s, speaks like they're 16 and still in high school. It's so fucking weird. Like, to watch Boom Boom and Shatterstar have a conversation in the pages of a comic book as if they were 16-year-olds today listening to fucking nothing but trap music and watching trash TV. It's so fucking weird to me because I'm like, both of these characters should be in their 30s. Why are they talking like this?
There should be some form of consistency going on, but you're right that there is a problem when you're always changing writers. I would think one of the things that they need to change at Marvel is to get a consistent writing team and a consistent art team and just have them work on the same comic for a while. Because if you buy they change issue by issue, which is very weird. If you see like a really good artist and a really good book, why did the teams have to change for the next book or the next book? Have them work on like have a contract, have them work on the book for a year. For a whole year, work that's like 12 comics. I mean, you get a consistent storyline. And if it works, and if people want to keep going again and they want to raise for the next, all right, fine, work. You guys are making money. Why not?
I actually have been really enjoying the Mr. and Mrs. X run, and the head writer of that particular book is actually a female. She's good. She's very good. She understands Gambit. She understands Rogue. She does a fucking fantastic job as the writer for these books. And I haven't gotten the latest issues of Mr. and Mrs. X because by the time I had gotten to the comic book store, they were completely sold out. And I'm very upset with a lot of the fangirls in my city because I'm just like, you bitches, how dare you deprive me of Mr. and Mrs. X because you bought them all, you fucking, how dare you? But
well, and we're not saying
you to stay on that book. I don't want them to switch her with somebody else. I just I need.
Well, and fair enough. I mean, certain people do still work on a project for a while. Like a lot of us like to cringe over. Like I actually enjoyed the run of Gwenpool, but that's because like they had a fairly interesting team. Because nobody cared how the book was performing. So just gave it to this one little team, and they kept going for a while, and they actually
That
did
was
well.
actually pretty good.
Well,
Wait, was that not supposed to be good? Or are we supposed to think that's bad? Because I like that one.
Well, it was supposed to be. Well, a lot of us thought it was bad because for a while there, Gwenpool was just like Spider-Gwen and kind of hated because it was like a social justice nightmare kind of a book. However, because they didn't care because it was a failing property, they just gave it to whoever. One of the people who came in there and picked it up was actually a Japanese group, and they worked on it and they had some success. It was working. The sales were going up, but the mindset of the audience was like, you guys are writing social justice stuff. This is Gwenpool. This is feminism. It's all this kind of stuff. It's no good. It's a gender bent Deadpool because people had a bad perception of the character. It wasn't funny. It wasn't good. It wasn't creative. Yeah. And so, I mean, it wasn't selling as well as it could have, but it certainly sold better than Spider-Gwen. But Spider-Gwen got to keep going, and Gwenpool didn't. So it's funny how these things work.
I don't know. I read all of mine online anymore. Like I don't think I've bought a comic since. I think I bought 3 after my storage unit burned down that had all of my comics in it, and
What?
that's been it. Like I've only bought 3 actual books in person.
Are you said you had a storage unit that burnt down and burnt away all your Whoa, that's horrible.
With the whole crap load of my stuff in it, like not just the comic books. I had comic books in there. I had a bunch of trading cards in there. I had a bunch of fucking electronics, like game consoles, like all my old game consoles. Like I do fucking everything. Like like in the furniture too, but I don't give a shit about the furniture now. Like the furniture I've already replaced, but that stuff I can't replace.
Yeah, no, some of that you can't. Oh, and then you might feel discouraged because why bother buying comics if something like this could happen all over again?
Well, I mean, that would never happen again. But like I said, I've only bought 3 physical copies of comic books since 2003 when all my shit, or sorry, since 2013 when all my shit burnt.
Yeah, that's the kind of the problem I have with the collecting toys like I do is, oh shit, what happens if I'm out and all that shit gets burned down?
But I read all my stuff online. Some of it I do actually pay for. Most of it I fucking pirate.
Well, you have to have a book that you actually want to actually spend money on. It doesn't help that a lot of comics are so expensive nowadays, like $5 a book.
Yeah.
They used to be a lot cheaper because you used to be printed on like cheap paper. But and maybe that's the mentality. Maybe what they should do is go back to making cheap comics, and then maybe save the good paper for trade paperbacks for people who actually want to read the books. That'd be just a great way to cut costs.
Or they could do it as like a here's for reading, here's for fucking collecting type of shit.
That's
well,
true.
yeah, that was one of the things that confused me when I started collecting the toys that I get is you could pay extra for the collector's grade, and I'm sitting there like, okay, what the fuck is that? Apparently collector's grade means that the packaging is more expensive for whatever fucking reason. I mean, it just confuses me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I don't know. Yeah.
how about them Cowboys?
Oh, screw that. You ain't talking. We're
I'm not
fucking
into
nerds.
homosexuality, dude.
Dude, you're in a place of nerds. Don't bring in that fucking like jock shit. Yeah, sure. If you don't have bring in a proper trapper keeper here, you're not welcome in this den.
You're supposed to get your proper nerd rage out, man. Come on.
You're fucking out.
You know, the worst part about life is the fact that I didn't even know what an elitist was until I pissed off some nerd that was in the. I forget even what the fuck they were into. That was how inconsequential it was to me. But it was like you would think I just murdered a loved one right in front of them. Just it's supposed to be, and it's like, yeah, okay, fuck you, shut up.
Hey, does anybody remember who the bald Democratic guy who is kind of in trouble because alleged sex assault recently came out about him? I want to say he's also a black dude.
It's Booker,
Willie
right?
Brown or Cory Booker, maybe.
Yeah, Cory Booker. There we go. Thank you.
Oh, Spartacus himself. Big fucking surprise.
You guys also, not to change the subject too much here, but because we haven't really brought this up, but you guys hear about the guy who the new guy running Nintendo of America?
Oh, Bowser?
Oh, yeah,
Bowser!
The guy who has Mario and Luigi tied up behind his desk on the on the mantelpiece or whatever.
His name is actually Bowser. I fucking love it. Oh.
You know what though? This it's one of those where it's like somehow this doesn't actually surprise me in any real way because you know it fits too fucking well. It's a little too on the nose.
Like honestly though, like I'm gonna be sad when it happens, but I'm just waiting for Bowser to ruin Nintendo, and then we can all make the jokes that Bowser killed Mario.
Oh, this is true.
Bowser finally did it. He finally got rid of Mario.
It could happen. I don't like to think about it that way, but it's a possibility.
Oh, you know it's gonna happen. Bowser's been looking to kill Mario for about as long as any of us can fucking remember.
What about like 37 years now?
Oh god, Mario himself became a thing in 1981, if I remember correctly.
38 years. Never mind. I was close.
Yeah, well, yeah. Mario came about in the game Donkey Kong. For those of you who even remotely give a shit about ancient video games like I do.
You know the weird thing is
1981. 39 years. Mario's about to be 40.
Yeah. He's fucking up there in age. I remember, if you don't know this, from the old Donkey Kong Country game, but in the very beginning of it, like when he gets his own little solo game or whatever, you actually get to see Cranky Kong, who actually is the original Donkey Kong. And if you actually look at what he's standing on, it's the actual like grates that he throws barrels down. And that's because the lore is that that's the actual the original Donkey Kong. So why is Mario still like, you know, somewhat like middle aged, I guess, 30 or whatever he is. But Donkey Kong's fucking old now. And now we get the new Donkey Kong.
Italians don't age, man. Like they stay the same age until they hit about like 80, and then they turn to like 90.
I don't want to think about that, but yeah, okay.
Well, plus Mario is just sort of a plumber who stumbled on a warp zone one day, and maybe it's the magic of the Mushroom Kingdom that keeps him young.
So somebody says, why Gwenpool looks like skinny Wanpool. Okay, first of all, you need to back the hell off with your goddamn trolling there, you son bitch.
That's why
Well, because Wanpool was sort of created as a parody of Gwenpool. That's why.
Not created as a sort of parody. The artist and creator of Wanpool has legitimately said this is a literal parody of Gwenpool.
That's the one pool.
Still, Wanpool is surprisingly far more popular than Gwenpool. I will say that much.
Well, because the whole premise of it's fucking hilarious. That's why.
It is. It really is.
I mean, it is just absolutely fucking hysterical.
Yeah. I do have to say, though, one of the reasons why I genuinely do not like Gwenpool, aside from all the fucking SJW crap and all that, it is just... It's not that it's bad. It's just, it's boring to me. I don't care. It's clearly not directed to me. It's clearly for a different demographic of fucking comic book readers. And clearly that demographic isn't very strong enough to keep the comic books going anyways. I don't give a shit. They're
not even strong enough to wipe their own ass. What are you talking about, man?
Fair enough. But my problem with Gwenpool is legitimately, she has made everybody forget Wanda Wilson. Literal female fucking Deadpool.
Yeah.
I don't like that. There was already a female equivalent to Deadpool who, when Deadpool was hopping through the multiverse and was accompanied by Headpool, the zombie universe Deadpool, he was also teamed up with fucking Femme Deadpool. Or Fempool, as they just called her. I mean, come on, people. She was in comic books, yeah, like maybe 15 years ago, somewhere in the early 2000s, and she had a small run, but she did actually have a relatively big role in a somewhat more recent run when Deadpool was running through the multiverse. This wasn't that long ago, but everybody forgot her because, oh, yeah, Gwenpool.
Oh, I don't know. I saw a Fempool cosplayer at the convention I went to last year. So,
well, you're always going to find at least one person who remembers random characters from other runs that other people have forgotten about. At some point at a convention before the X-Force started making a comeback, there was at least 1 to 2 people that would cosplay different X-Force characters. Like you would occasionally run into somebody wearing the old school Havoc costume and the old school Polaris costume. You'd run into somebody who was actually trying to portray themselves as a somewhat accurate Caliban or a somewhat accurate Boom Boom.
I love how future Gwenpool comes from the gutters. Like, okay,
comes from what?
She comes from the gutters. Gutters is the term in between comic panels and stuff like that. But when we think gutters, we think like, you know, dirty, filthy places. Okay. And I think the fandom will go in various different places. Let's just say I've been on Tumblr before it went bad.
Oh, speaking of gutters, did you guys ever see that? Oh God, somebody did a edit of the girl who her little brother comes in her room while she's doing her thottery and fucking slams the door in her face. Somebody actually had to do a Tommy Wiseau edit of that where he slams her in the face with the door. I did not hit her. It's bullshit.
I did not.
Oh, hi, Mark. When I saw that, I was just fucking dead, man. It was the funniest fucking thing.
So yeah, Marvel's going down. Things are not looking good. How about that?
Well, they're going exactly down the exact same shitter that we warned them they were headed for, and they didn't believe us. Big fucking surprise. I mean, seriously. Who could have seen this coming? Was it in one of the many quatrains penned by Nostradamus himself?
I mean, probably.
I'm still sad about it.
I'm not sad one fucking bit. It's like it to me. It's like, yeah, I used to kind of like this guy in high school, but then he turned into a complete and total shitbag, and now I have just absolutely no sympathy for him anymore, kind of thing. That's exactly what this is like to me. It's like You know, I really liked that dude in high school, but you know, for whatever reason, he turned into a complete and total shithead. And, you know,
Well, I mean, we saw this kind of thing coming, but we have to remember this is just an article. It's nothing has actually happened yet. But when an article starts going with it and it starts picking up on popularity, other people are going to do articles as well. And everything that people have been saying on YouTube and on the internet and all that kind of stuff, they're just going to echo and copy everything that's been said before.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've actually been taking a few steps back from a lot of the shit that I was doing before, just because like I started noticing what was happening to me. I started just simply accepting information that was being presented to me without even looking into it myself. I started to slowly stop listening to any other opposing opinion, because it was just like in my head, it was riddled with stupidity and ignorance and blah, blah, blah. And I started to notice that like I was slowly becoming the thing that I was arguing about over and over again. So I'm not as hateful anymore. I still rage on a lot of different things. I still stand by my opinion that honestly, if you want to create comic books for a specific demographic of people, stop hijacking or co-opting beloved characters that have been around for over 70 years and such. Stop doing shit like that, and just simply create your own creations. And as for characters like Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and so much, or so many others, just kill them off. Just have them retire, disappear. Stop continuing the fucking stories. Like, let them continue the road that they're on and eventually have a fucking end for them. It's as simple as that. Just end their stories. We don't need new Spider-Man books. We don't need new Captain America books. We don't need we can have the Avengers. We can have the X-Men. That's fine. But give us brand new characters. Get rid of the older ones, the ones that we've all loved and cared about and such, and then just give us new versions. The teens are fine. You can have new X-Men. You can have new Avengers. You can have new X-Force and all that stuff. That's fine. Just stop giving me X-Men where Scott Summers goes from being pissed off at fucking Xavier because of all the fucking lies Xavier is continuously doing, to the point where all of a sudden he does this 180 and is now goddamn mutant Hitler. That's not actually what happened, but that's basically how
that's pretty fucking close, honestly. Scott Summers, like, anyone who sits there and says, "Oh, I fucking love Cyclops," you don't read him, dude. You don't know what they did. You don't know what they did to him. He's a twat now.
Yeah, they turned him into fucking a nut, and then they tried to fix it by giving us young Scott Summers, and I'm like, don't try to fix your fucking fuck up because you gave us 19-year-old Scott Summers and now he can start again. Bullshit.
Like, you gave us like 15 years of him leading to being Hitler and then being fucking mutant Hitler. No.
But the fucked up thing is that's not even really what happened. Like, he wasn't actually on his way to becoming fucking mutant Hitler and such, which was ironic. He was just becoming a better version of Magneto. That was all it was. Is Magneto was calmed the fuck down, and he was just like, we're gonna start our own faction. We're gonna actually do things for mutant rights and everything like that. But then the writers just completely fucked him up, and in a few issues turned him into literal fucking mutant Hitler. And I'm like, that is such an extreme step for him, though. Like, a few issues ago, he was talking about not killing innocent people in this whole ordeal, but here he is just, now we're going to kill these people now. Okay. What happened to the Scott Summers who actually had this idea in his head where it's like, you know what? I don't have to save everyone. And if I know you're a piece of shit, I probably won't try to save your life. But at the same time, I'm not going to just turn away from an injustice. Like, that was what Scott's stance was when he was turning on Xavier and everybody else. It was, I'm not going to turn away from an injustice. I'm not going to turn away from a crime. But at the same time, I'm not going to go out of my way to save the fucking people that actually, like, spit on me every single time I step out of the house. That was his stance. And then he turned into fucking mutant Hitler. And it was like, what the hell? This version of Scott prior to this was actually kind of cool. I could get behind that, Scott. This, nah, I ain't gonna do that. Can't do that. It was fucking weird. But just let these characters fucking die. Just let them die out. Just let them grow old. Stop continuing these fucking because you're just getting too many fucking people riled up. There's too many people getting pissed off that you're ruining Captain America. You're ruining their childhood for this and that. And I'm so sick of hearing those arguments. I'm so sick of seeing these fucking pansy ass little bitches who are throwing a fucking fit. And I'm sitting here going, you know, the original Captain America wasn't even like this. He was kind of an asshole, all right? Like he was all super gung-ho, right-wing Republican who was, you know, yeah, but he was a fucking dick about it. Very similar to how Superman actually was. In the original versions of all these characters, they were all assholes. None of them were actually good characters, realistically speaking, but because they saved people's lives, we were told that these are supposed to be good characters. It wasn't until better writers would eventually come along and actually make them more interesting. I'm not saying Stan Lee wasn't a good writer when he was writing for Captain America, but he was going by the instructions he was given. When Stan Lee was allowed to do as he pleased, he gave us characters like Spider-Man, Iron Man, the X-Men, and so on. Did they work all the time? Not really. Ironically, Iron Man worked, even though it was a project supposed to fail. No joke, that's an actual thing. Iron Man was supposed to fail from its start, but it succeeded, oddly enough.
Weird. It's like, oh, I wasn't planning for this to keep going. Now what do I do?
Yeah. Oh, but
ride that wave home, nigga. Ride that wave home.
Here's the best part. Do you know who actually kept the Iron Man books going more than anything else?
Who?
Women.
There you go.
The biggest fucking readers of Iron Man comic books in the 60s and 70s were actually women. They loved Tony Stark. Absolutely loved him. His biggest fan base was women. And so Stan kept going with it. And eventually he handed it off to other people because, you know, Stan's not going to work on every single fucking project all the time. But yeah, Iron Man's fucking biggest fan base in the beginning were a bunch of women. And that was actually how he succeeded. And I think it was because Iron Man was a highly flawed man. He was the abused, adopted son of an extremely rich fucking tech mogul who basically kind of turned his son into an alcoholic, and Tony inevitably became somewhat of a womanizer when he got to adulthood. And women was his biggest women in general were his biggest fan base. You would get like 4 or 5 dudes that loved Tony Stark, loved Iron Man. But then you'd get like 10, 15 women who were actually the ones keeping his books afloat.
I just want to remind you that there's an entire channel that is watched solely by women that is nothing but women being abused all day, constantly, every day. Women's Lifetime Victims Network.
Are you Tony Stank?
Like, no, like it's not even a new thing. Like Lifetime has for like 20 so years now, 30, 25, 30 years, however long it's been around, has been nothing but, hey, what's the worst possible situation we could put a woman in? Let's do that.
Fair.
That is sort of the biggest draw for women. I mean, look at, what was it, 50 Shades of Rape became like the biggest selling book because women wanted to diddle themselves to the idea of a rich guy beating the shit out of some chick. Sure, why not?
Yeah, that seems to be the way of things. I mean, there's a certain demographic of women that does like that kind of thing. They do like the whole dominating factor. But I mean, and then there's the other part that's saying, no, that's not a thing. It's never a thing. That's just men's power fantasy.
Men's power fantasy, and it's like, men aren't the ones diddling themselves to this shit, lady.
I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but men didn't really go out to see 50 Shades of Grey. That was essentially a woman's movie.
That was a ladies' night out kind of shit.
Yeah.
A woman wrote a fanfic about Twilight that evolved into 50 Shades of Grey, and the biggest fucking buyers of that book were women. the most fucking the most ticket sales were women. That was a very woman fucking driven franchise right there. That's all that was. Women were pretty much 90% of the goddamn fan base. A woman started the whole thing, and it's based on a book series that was actually written by another woman. All of that is 100% fucking women.
Yeah, that's on you, ladies. I ain't got nothing to do with that shit.
I didn't care. I judged it harshly, and I moved the fuck on with my life. And when I saw that it got a second and third fucking movie installment, I was just like, how?
Honestly, that one still just bugs me because like they sold it as this whole BDSM thing, and nothing in that was BDSM. That was a fucking rapist and a moron.
That's kind of the reason why it's called 50 Shades of Rape, my dude.
Like that wasn't a relationship. That was a fucking rapist and somebody who was too stupid to realize that she was getting fucking raped.
Well, you know what? That's why you should have said, instead of rapist and a moron, you should have said a rapist and his retard.
That was Stockholm Syndrome without the Stockholm.
Yeah, you know what? That is the best way I've ever heard it put. I think a lot of feminists bitched about that book, didn't they?
No, feminists actually praised the shit out of fucking 50 Shades of Grey. Again, everything was very woman-driven with all of that. Like, the feminists loved it. Nobody hated this thing except for maybe the TERFs, the trans-exclusionary radical feminists. And the only reason why is because those are a group of women that think penis is so pure evil that women should actually never have sex with men. In fact, any woman who has sex with a man should claim it as rape, even if it's consensual.
Ooh, there's some green chick.
I can't tell if that's She-Hulk or some other green lady.
No, that's not She-Hulk, because that dude there is Hercules. That's She-Hulk and Hercules?
Yeah. Hercules and She-Hulk have actually had an on-off sexual relationship for a long time.
When your dick game's so strong, you have to have She-Hulk as your bed buddy.
It's not even just that. Hercules is actually one of the he isn't just because he's, you know, a demigod and everything like that. He's actually god tier hero. He's basically on the same types of levels strength wise as like Worldbreaker, Hulk, and shit like that. That's how Hercules is supposed to be, but for some reason the comic books continue to just turn him into a joke character, and I'm like, it's somewhat disgraceful, but at the same time I can understand why you're doing this.
Well, that, and they also made him bisexual.
That is only a recent thing, and truthfully speaking, that is not something I will actually argue against, simply because if you actually go back to the ancient Greek stories of Heracles, he kind of was a typical fucking Greek at that time, and there was no such thing as gay sex. Sex was simply sex. So for them to just kind of embrace more of his actual backstory is not disgraceful. It's fine.
Well, the Greeks did have a thing.
I will say there wasn't really gay straight sex back in Greece, but there was winners and losers.
Well, yeah. And here's the thing that people tend to actually misconstrue. When a hero cared more about his male lover than a female lover, that hero was inevitably bound to die, because basically, it wasn't exactly frowned upon and it wasn't exactly illegal, but society still pushed for the idea and the whole marriage of a man and a woman, because you can produce a child that way. Men could still fuck men. They didn't give a fuck. Look at Sparta, for God's sake.
I did also want to say I can't do an image search on She-Hulk or
without the Rule 34 kicking in.
No. If I scroll down too much, because here's the thing: female Marvel superhero characters are usually fairly popular, and if you Google them in image search, you will find naked pictures of them.
That's what I said. You.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I forget all the rules. But anyway, the any of the more modern ones, like Captain Marvel, can't find them. I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist, but they just don't show up on Google image search.
The Ms. Marvel ones are probably still out there.
Probably, but She-Hulk. I mean, I had to be careful. We
You
talked
said
about
that so quick, like you've had that on the ready, like, oh yeah, they're still out there.
yeah, that fucking right. They are damn right. But we talked about She-Hulk before on previous streams, and I didn't realize it, but I remember like because they were just small thumbnails. But in the corner of some of them, there's like full on naked She-Hulk, and we just kept talking, and it wasn't until I saw the stream later I went, oh shit, She-Hulk tits are on the screen. I didn't notice. Luckily, I don't think we ever got in trouble for that.
I think that says more about your sexuality than anything else. There were She-Hulk titties on the TV, and I didn't even notice.
there's so much greed. Can't help it.
Ho ho ho.
Yeah, but Semaj, you also have to remember that you had a man's nutsack on a stream at one point, and you didn't get in trouble for it.
Yeah, that was weird.
I want to point out that happened twice.
Did it?
Yeah, somebody told me I wouldn't do it, so I did.
Well, that's just nuts.
Satan,
Okay.
why do you do these things? I know why Nick did it. Why do you do these things?
Whiskey.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. That's why Nick did it too.
No whiskey on stream, otherwise you have to get nuts to go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole reason. Like, you have bar nuts.
Damn it! This is why you do coke, okay?
I yes, also that.
He started off trying to deny this fact, and then he was like, "No, yeah, that is actually that is a factor as well." Yeah, very true. Oh man, Marvel might be sinking. Truthfully, I don't actually know. We don't really have anything to say whether it is or isn't. And if it is, the company is absolutely not going to make that public information.
Well,
as long as they can try to convince Disney to, keep going with Marvel and everything, because again, the massive popularity that is the MCU has been a money grab like nobody else's business with Disney. And unfortunately, even though they also have Star Wars has become a horribly failing franchise, which is probably one of the reasons why they actually started canceling a bunch of other side projects, or even completely revamping the living shit out of Episode 8, because another article has recently come out saying that, well, J.J. Abrams is coming back to the fray, and he is going to completely eliminate what the events were in Episode 8. So I don't know if we're going to get an actual revamped Episode 8 to the point where technically there's going to be 2 Episode 8s, but this one is actually the official. The second one is the official complete sequel of Episode 7 and shit. Not 100% certain there, but yeah, Disney is trying to fix the Star Wars franchise as best they can, even if it is going as far as giving us a second Episode 8 that fixes the big ass problems that they actually had.
I think it's a bit of a stretch that they'll do an Episode 8. I don't see that happening. I think what's probably, if I had to speculate, I think they're going to do Episode 9. After that, they're probably going to do more Star Wars movies, but they won't be episodes. They'll be their own thing.
There's a possibility.
I see that being more likely, and those new movies will have to be. They're going to have to try and earn back the fans' favor. I don't think it's impossible. I think they can definitely do that, but they do have to get a few things under control.
True.
Like, you also have to remember, the reason why Disney bought Star Wars and Marvel is because they already have the female demographic covered, because Disney has the princess line. That princess line makes them a lot of money, and they're a very popular thing. But the one thing they don't make a lot of money on are boy-related stuff. And men and boys, they like Star Wars, and they like superheroes, they like Marvel.
I understand. There's also Marvel and Star Wars have been partner companies with Disney since pretty much the 70s.
So when you make a franchise, or you get a franchise like this, and you pop out new movies, but the people who are spearheading these new movies are feminists who plan on making Star Wars female, something was a disconnect from the get-go, because First of all, these franchises are here to get the men and the boys interested in their movies. They're not there for the women, but the women who are making them are there to make them for the women, and it's not. No one's happy. It's the people who are in charge are the wrong people to be in charge.
They really are.
And it's the same thing with Marvel because they brought in a bunch of new people and all that, and they're also the same mentality. Like they always said, superheroes are for women or for men. We have to make it for like women and all that. That mentality is why it's failing because the ghost demographic that they're talking about are women, and it doesn't work. Women. What?
Here's the counter argument to a lot of what people think when it comes to Star Wars and Marvel. There is already a massive female demographic for both properties. Again, I already pointed out, Iron Man stayed afloat, and Iron Man was meant to fail from the start. This was the actual intention Stan Lee had because Stan Lee had a bet going with somebody else saying, you could never create an actual hero that will tank. So Stan took the bet and actually tried to create a hero that would tank. Surprise, surprise, it didn't tank. Stan Lee lost that bet. And the people that kept his books afloat just enough for them to eventually move forward with the Avengers project, but then his individual books continued to flourish, was because of the women writers. I'm sorry, not the women writers, was because of the women fan base. Women love Tony Stark. Women love Han Solo. Women love so many other characters. And the fact that these people continue to say there isn't enough women in comic books or there isn't enough women reading comic books, I beg to differ. I've met plenty of women in my life that love both franchises. Some of them ironically love the villain of the franchise, but still.
And one of my favorite things growing up was watching the old X-Men cartoon show from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
That was produced by a woman. Some of the writers in there were women. But it was an awesome thing. It was an awesome cartoon. Because, well, also I think it was because they perfectly knew their demographic and they were going out for boys and they were going out for that kind of a thing. And they managed to make it work. I mean, so long as you know what your target audience is and what you're supposed to do, great. But I think with the case of Star Wars and Marvel, the people who are working there, they want their target demographic to be, like-minded people and predominantly women. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. Women don't really, care too much for all this action sci-fi kind of stuff. I mean, not to say that there isn't a group out there who do enjoy these movies, because there are.
Well, I mean, like,
Semaj,
there's a small group of any demographic that's going to latch onto anything. I mean, look, you have fucking adult bronies.
Well, and I have to disagree strongly with one thing Semaj says, because I used to love the show Farscape.
Mm-hmm.
And when they canceled that, I was hella pissed because it was like they ended the whole fucking show literally on a fucking cliffhanger. And I was like, oh, great, I'll never get to find out what the fuck happens here. And then turns out the real fan base of the show, women, got them to fucking do like they actually made a movie to finish the show out, which was a surprise to me because I was like, wow, I didn't realize women liked the show. And then it was like, it took some thought, but then I was like, well, wait a minute. This show does have some really fucking cheesy romance elements to it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then some of the cast went on to do Stargate, and then they practically made Stargate into Farscape, and it didn't quite work.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because they got the two main characters from Farscape to be the new characters in the show. I would lick the fucking paint right off of her. I'm telling you right now, Shiana was pure sex as far as I was concerned.
You need to calm the fuck down there, sir.
I refuse to calm the fuck down because.
But no, yeah, I completely understand what Semaj was saying, though. The Disney, their main demographic that actually bought the majority of their products was basically women, because it was a lot of princess cutesy stuff and everything like that. Older women, younger women, it didn't really fucking matter. It was all, they had the girl fan base down packed, and they were probably a company that actually had more power than either other franchise, Disney or Marvel or franchise, really, because they also had amusement parks. And the only time you could ever actually see Marvel characters or Star Wars characters in costume walking around in an amusement park was really Disneyland, Disney World, or Universal Century, because Universal amusement parks, their amusement park, it's the only place that you could actually get Spider-Man, Wolverine, or any of the other Marvel characters. They were the only ones that actually had fucking costume characters, costume employees walking around being these characters, despite the fact that Marvel didn't actually own Universal, nor were they really partnered with Universal. They were partnered with Fox, who's partnered with Universal. But still.
I had a hell of a time when Paramount finally dug their claws into the amusement park that's closest to where I live, which is Carowinds. Now you got people dressed up as Klingons running around Paramount's Carowinds.
Oh, goddamn.
It used to just be Carowinds, but then they changed it to Paramount's Carowinds after they bought it.
Yeah.
And all that good shit.
But it makes sense that Disney would eventually, Star Wars and Marvel, they were partner companies with them since the 70s. Marvel produced the first Star Wars comic books. A partner comic book company, Dark Horse, with Marvel, eventually continued their own Star Wars comic books for many, many years afterwards. Star Wars has its own attraction and stores over in Disneyland way before they ever actually bought fucking Star Wars and everything like that. A co-producer of Lucasfilms is the Disney Corporation. So it's just like these three companies have been working together for decades. So it only makes sense that they would eventually go under one umbrella. The problem is now trying to shift everybody's demographic from one to another, and it didn't make any goddamn sense. Like, oh, so comic books are now, or Marvel Comics is now owned by Disney, so let's get more females into the comic books. Well, there were already plenty of females reading comic books and liking comic books. Are you just going off of the loudest, most minuscule amount of supposed fans and what they want? Because let me just go ahead and say this. The majority of any fan base is comprised of people that just don't really care that much. I'm not even shitting you. If you go to comic book groups on Facebook, like just go into these comic book groups, you'll see that a lot of the people in there are probably either going to be, left-wing, democratic, liberal people, which is fine. I'm not shitting on anyone because of their politics or anything.
I will.
Fine. But like the majority of them will probably, they will most likely even announce it, saying that they're a liberal, that they're left wing, that they're a Democrat, whatever the case is, and shit like that. At some point, they might even bring up their politics and everything, and then they'll talk about how they love this character, how they love this character, and so on and so forth. And anytime somebody actually brings up, I didn't like this change of this character because I thought it was very disrespectful. Instead of giving me, a new face under the mask, why not just give me a new mask? Why can't you just create your own character? Like, just presenting something as simple as that, and those people will fucking start a goddamn a Facebook fire war. It's just it's annoying. It's fucking annoying because most of the fans in comic books, most of the people that are actually buying the comic books, they probably don't really care about your politics, and they just simply can keep consuming the product because they like the character more than they like anything else. They accept mediocre writing. They accept shit art. They accept these things simply because it has the name Iron Man on it, simply because it has the name Captain America on it, or simply because they have the name Avengers on it. They are not diehard fans that have been obsessed with these characters for a long fucking time. They're casuals. A large portion of the fan base in these both franchises are casuals.
Well, and you have to remember, like, when you get to see these movies and people are reminded that these come from comic books, and they will go to their local comic shop to find these comic books. But if you look at the most popular superhero out there, which is like, I believe it's Iron Man. You look up Iron Man, and what you're going to get is instead Ironheart, like Riri Williams.
With that hair, they should have fucking called her Steel Wool.
Yes, exactly. But I'm like, I came here for Iron Man. I don't want this. I'm not gonna. It's this black woman, this black girl, I should say. Like, we get this Ironheart.
Isn't Riri another word for retard?
I think it's about to be.
Well, actually, people would call other people Riris, as in retards, but they didn't want to call them flat out retards, so they just started calling them Riris with 2 E's instead of 2 I's.
It might be a pejorative towards, I don't know, the autistic, because this girl is fucking autistic. And then of course you look at, like, let's say, like, I love Thor. Well, let's check out a Thor comic, and what are you gonna get? Jane Foster as Thor.
Why has he got tits? Wait, what? Why does he have tits?
Who?
Thor.
Oh, Thor.
The funniest thing about that whole thing, though, after they made Jane Foster into Thor, or whore as most people would call her, the funniest thing about it is apparently what they did was Thor himself was, he just started calling himself Odin's son, and he was the dishonored Thor or whatever. But apparently that comic with Thor without his powers, without his hammer, just going around fighting, doing whatever, apparently that was infinitely better than the Jane Foster Thor comics.
It was.
And people were just like, all right.
Yeah, I actually owned the entire run of the Unworthy Thor.
When you look at someone like they might say, well, how do you know that Marvel's run by a bunch of feminists? They gave Thor's hammer to Jane Foster, and now Thor walks around with no shirt on and kicks more ass.
Well, and the funniest thing about it is I actually was in a live stream where I gave an idea of, if they wanted to save face with the whole turning it into she-Thor or whatever you want to call it, if they had wanted to save their asses on that one and bring Thor back in an awesome way, what they could have done was have the whole thing of Thor being unworthy of the hammer, some trick by Loki, and it was his way of corrupting the hammer by actually giving it somebody who was completely unworthy of the hammer, and that's where Jane Foster comes in.
I don't know.
No. I would say it. You had me up until the Loki corrupts the hammer.
Well, no, it's not that Loki corrupts the hammer. What it is he figures out a way to reverse the whole spell that's on the hammer, which is let he who is worthy wield the power of Thor. That was kind of the whole inscription. And Loki's, the magical trickster, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
What they could have done with
make
that
more sense if I was the Enchantress or something, but
there's a
well,
problem.
no. Well, you're not catching what I'm selling here. It's a trick by Loki, but what it is he basically figures out a way to reverse the spell Odin put on the hammer that made Thor, quote unquote, unworthy of it, but only because he managed to reverse the spell where only somebody who was actually completely unworthy of it could wield it. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I'm still telling you that that's still not possible, because Loki is nowhere near as powerful as Odin when it comes to something like that. So he wouldn't even,
shit.
No, stop. He wouldn't have the ability to actually reverse one of Odin's enchantments like that. On top of that, he already tried that, and it failed.
See, this is the irascible nerd part that I was talking about.
No, that I'm saying, jackass, your idea has been attempted in the comic books before, and it failed. He couldn't do it.
Wait, to be fair, I mean, it only fails until it succeeds. I mean, he could have just gotten better.
No,
he could have become a better magician.
Oh my God!
Well, but see,
So now
here's the part.
you're just as bad now as a writer as the fucking people you've been
Well,
complaining.
here's the part you
Fair enough,
missed.
but
Here's the part you missed. I mean, there's also the factor of, okay, yeah, Loki's tried that before. That's all well and good. But a good writer would figure out a way. I'm not a writer, so I'm not going to say, oh, I'm better than any of the writers. No, I'm just saying, had they wanted to save their asses with the horrible idea of Jane Foster, it could have been a plot by Loki, but here's where you get into another rub. It could have been that, well, how the hell did Loki figure out how to do it? Well, that's where you get, that's where you bring some more plot and intrigue into it. And oh, well, who might have been able to supply Loki with such a thing if Loki wasn't, strong enough to do it himself in the first place? Well, you've got metric shit tons of Marvel characters like Mephistopheles and I don't know who all the fuck else that could have been like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna have a little fun with Loki and let him think he's the mastermind behind the whole thing.
It was actually proven in another book that
Oh, for fuck's sakes, man!
Mephisto.
I'm not a fucking comic nerd. Get it
Shut
through your
the fuck
skull.
up and stop talking about my domain, you dumb shit. All right, I'm not a Transformer guy, but you don't see me talking about how they should fix Transformers.
Well, you're perfectly welcome to any opinions you have on the subject. I
I'm,
mean,
that's
that's not a.
I'm correcting your ideas. Now, look, here's where you're wrong. Mephistopheles, Mephisto.
You thought wrong. Let me tell you how you should have thought.
Hold on.
Yeah. That.
Let me explain. Mephisto is very powerful in his own domain, provably still weaker than even Odin when it came to power in his domain. Mephisto has actually been bitch slapped by Odin in his domain. So Mephisto is a terrible person. Now, if you were to say Dormammu, then I actually can back up your actual idea, because Dormammu is miles ahead of power compared to Mephisto.
Well, okay, fine. Dormammu would. I'm just saying, well, the part that I said was pick somebody. The only reason I even used Mephisto's name is because, well, isn't he supposed to be a demon or some shit?
He's a demon lord of one of the various hell dimensions, but
so fine. Well, so fine. So drag Dormammu into it and give him, I don't know, some contrived reason. Why the fuck would Dormammu want Mjolnir destroyed? Is there a specific reason, and he knows that, I guess Doctor Strange has him trapped in his own dimension or whatever, so he can't get out to do it himself. Well, Loki's a bit of a troublemaker out here in the world of Thor and Odin and all that. Why don't I give him this spell and let him do the fucking dirty work? That's the whole point. It's not necessarily that Loki is the one causing it. He's just like more or less the gopher.
He's the harbinger.
Yeah, exactly. He's the method by which Dormammu decides, well, Loki's sort of the devil sort of character in this world, so I'll let him be the face of it and take the fall for it if that should happen. But that
actually that would work, because Loki and Dormammu have worked together in the past. Loki and Mephisto would probably never work together because they just can't stand one another. They're essentially the same character written by completely different people, but it's that whole "I hate you because you remind me too much of me" kind of concept. But Dormammu, on the other hand, that is someone who has actually worked with Loki before. They don't like each other, but they will work with each other for some kind of a ends meet. And
well, and Loki is the kind of guy, like, I guess, what is it, Mordo?
Baron Mordo,
who is like basically exactly what Dormammu looks for in a person. Is he's too dumb to realize that all the shit he does is detrimental to himself just as much as it is to the people he's fucking with.
Fair enough. And I could actually see that there was some kind of a plot for Dormammu and Loki to work together to annihilate their two greatest foes, because if you weaken Thor, and Loki is someone who has actually made a lot of trouble for Doctor Strange in the past, and Doctor Strange is not that familiar with Loki and the things that he can do, but take out Thor, you've got a bit of an upper hand against Doctor Strange. Take down Doctor Strange, Dormammu can rain hell on all kinds of different dimensions and shit. So the idea of Dormammu and Loki working together to actually fuck with the enchantment, that can actually work. That would be interesting. However, I'm still going to continue to stand by my original thought on, if you really wanted a female Thor, why didn't you just give it to Sif or Valkyrie?
Well,
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not like other characters haven't taken.
Actually, guys, like, but I don't do a good nerd voice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, yeah.
don't worry. You need to work on it.
Well, the whole point.
You won't get your nerd voice at some point. It's okay.
The whole point though was, with as much of an asshole as they turned Jane Foster into, that would have been probably the only actual way they could have saved that whole story and maybe brought some of the fans back into the fold, was to give it at least make the ending of that tale interesting enough that maybe people could forgive it.
Well, don't you know? You're all just a bunch of bullies because Jane Foster has cancer. Don't you know? That's why you see it on
Jane Foster is cancer. What the fuck are you talking about?
In the comics, she actually has cancer.
Yeah, that's what this picture.
That's because she is cancer.
Okay, that too. But in the actual comics, yes, she actually has cancer. She's lost all her hair. She wears all this other kind of stuff. But she becomes like Thor when she wields the hammer, like all her powers and stuff. But it makes her sicker.
Yeah, it's killing her because whenever she transforms into Thor, she basically expels all the chemotherapy that she actually had going through her system and everything. So it's the reason why she's basically dying, because the cancer is basically doing what it's supposed to do. And all of her so-called medicine is being consistently stopped by Mjolnir.
So what you're saying is feminism is cancer.
Yes, it is. Well, that I think that was their subconscious way of admitting it by giving Jane Foster cancer.
There we go. Also, I fucking wish Art Germ, which the name of the guy who did this art, I'm like, I wish he would do more. Fucking love how he draws women.
Yeah. I will say this much: the head writer for the Mighty Thor Jane Foster run and everything. One of the reasons why he did the book the way it is, and one of the reasons why Mjolnir takes the cancer away and everything, is because he had at the time he had an aunt who was unfortunately diagnosed with cancer, and I believe I can't remember exactly because I kind of stopped paying attention to a lot of stuff, but I think she unfortunately did pass. Why he wrote it the way it was, where she would inevitably die. That basically, because she kept becoming Thor, because Thor is needed and all that stuff, there must always be a Thor. Those were the first words she whispered before she picked up the hammer. But because there must always be a Thor, and she is technically Thor, she's going to inevitably die. Essentially a slow, painful, agonizing death, sacrificing herself for the greater good, for the needs of other people and stuff like that. And it's sort of like his send-off to his own aunt, who he cares about a great deal. So I understand why he did it the way he did, but at the same time, there were some other elements to that were completely unnecessary, such as the enchantment being changed, which hasn't been this way for quite a while now, but the enchantment being changed, whosoever wields this hammer, should he be found worthy, will possess all the powers of Thor. He was transformed into she. So now the enchantment will only realistically work for women.
No.
The only person that could actually pick up the hammer now is going to be a woman. They wrote it in this way to where now only Mjolnir can be wielded by a woman. Whereas
Well, hold on, wait, but if I'm remembering correctly, there have been men and women who have wielded Mjolnir in the past.
that's exactly
Yes.
why I say this is that enchantment hasn't been that way for a long time. It's always been it since the original beginning. The original telling was, should he be found worthy? Yes, but sometime in, I want to say, the 80s or 90s, they rewrote the enchantment to say, should they be found worthy? Hence, one of the reasons why females have actually wielded the hammer in the 616 universe and in the main continuity.
Well, actually, the funniest thing is I actually did read one where instead of draining all of Miss Marvel's power, Rogue actually got a hold of Thor instead and gained his power instead. You know how like Rogue became like super powerful because she drained Miss Marvel of all her powers and shit. Well, they did a what if where Rogue
I was
got
about to
a
say,
hold
I
of
think that was
Thor
one of the what ifs,
instead.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Okay.
That's what I said. Somebody see if you can find that where Rogue, I think it was called the title of it was Rogue takes the power of Thor or something like that.
What I will say is, before they officially went forward with the Amalgam comics, though, when they did the Marvel versus DC comic books and such, during the Thor versus Shazam fight, Thor unfortunately, fortunately Thor won, but him winning, he eventually lost his hammer because he threw it at Shazam, and that was actually how he won. But the hammer went flying somewhere else, and it went so far that Thor couldn't actually call it back to him, which is kind of stupid because that's not how the enchantment works. But Wonder Woman actually found it right after she had won her fight against Storm for some reason, or no, in the middle of the fight against Storm, and Wonder Woman looked down at the hammer. She saw that the enchantment said, should he be found worthy? And she was like, that's so ridiculous. Worthiness isn't, I don't remember the actual lines, but worthiness isn't gender specific. And she touches the hammer, and suddenly, because the hammer deemed her worthy, she was now wielding Thor's power.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
And
There
she
you go.
beat the shit out of fucking Storm with it.
Can you go back to the one with the inscription on it and like make that bigger?
Tab. Want me to get closer? I can try.
No, just
Oh,
yeah.
whosoever holds this hammer, if
Who should ever hold this
He
hammer?
or she.
he or she be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. See, they've changed the enchantment a few times and such, but for the enchantment to completely change and alter simply by the touch of Jane Foster the way it did, plants the seed that now only women can wield the hammer of Mjolnir. Now only female Thors can actually be female Thors, with the exception of only one other Mjolnir. The Ultimate Universe's Mjolnir, which is wielded by Volstagg, who is considered the war Thor.
You know what? I'm trying to remember, but I think there was a really popular version of Thor that's like a frog.
Oh yes, Thor frog.
Thor frog is basically just Thor who was enchanted to become a frog because Loki was being a dick.
Yeah, but you got to admit that is pretty fucking awesome.
It's hilarious.
I see that the alt-right's getting serious.
The alt-right's what?
The alt-right's getting serious.
The alt-right's getting serious. They're bringing back the old religions.
Good God. Oh man, we have been going on for quite a while.
We haven't really been talking too much about the article that we were here to talk about. But
that's because I kind of helped pretty much say that, like, let's not really go off of this article.
Well, I mean, like we're sort of saying that a lot can be interpreted from the article, but there's not all that substance that's really in there. However, we shouldn't be surprised if things will take a dark turn. And
Ribbit.
this could ribbit.
No, it's ribbith.
Ribbit.
You
Sorry.
have to. It's old English. You gotta say ribbith.
Sorry.
Ribbeth for her pleasure.
God damn.
Can't say they don't have
You
a
know-
sense of humor.
Well, you know what though? That's I think that's the part that just makes it so great is fucking ribbeth.
Oh, so fucking.
Oh, so fucking epic. Oh my god. I know the next Disney or the next animated Marvel movie.
Nope. Nope. If they do this, I'm going to be very upset.
Why?
It's a joke. Don't take it seriously. It's a joke.
Yeah, well, the people thought the same thing about Rocket Raccoon. Look what happened.
Rocket Raccoon was a joke that was meant to be taken seriously. Thor Frog was a joke that was never meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah, but it's so damn awesome.
It's not. He's just a frog. He eventually goes back to be Thor. Why do they keep doing epic poses with him though? Like it's some kind of badass thing. Stop it.
Because he is. He's a badass.
God damn
I
it.
think people are in on the joke. They get it, and they're just having fun with it.
It's just
Um,
too damn much though. It's just one of those things. It's like, no, I don't need this.
I mean,
Wait,
they'd be
I
like,
didn't realize Thor Frog was that old. I thought that was a more. I didn't think that happened until like the mid 2000s, late 2000s, something like that. Like Thor Frog's been around since '83.
Yeah, it was an old joke that people eventually started making callbacks to because they thought it was fucking funny. Because people started finding out that Loki would actually transform Thor into different things a lot. He transformed Thor into a frog. He transformed Thor into a woman. He transformed Thor into a fucking a cat at one point. Like Loki has been a thorn in Thor's side for a long fucking time and has turned him into a bunch of shit. And so now they're starting to make callbacks to it. They're just making one joke after another. And it is great. At the same time, I'm just like, please don't take this further than it needs to be.
I kind of hope that they do make it into a movie. And the reason why, not live action, I want it to be an animated movie because it's silly. But I want it to happen. And the reason why is the moment we see the first trailer, all the Kakistani people and all that kind of stuff, they'll be like, we fucking got them. We fucking got them. We got them to do it. We're fucking in the movie, guys.
I'm just waiting for Thor into the Froggyverse.
God. No, you know what? No, that's it. I'm calling it. I'm shutting it down.
Okay, it'll be a crossover between Frog Thor and Spider Ham.
You need to stop. You both need to be stopped. The devil is a liar, and so is his monkey companion.
Thory Frog does whatever
a
Brock
Tory
hates.
frog does.
They'll get some help from Rocket Raccoon. It'll be the furry force. Oh god!
Okay, no, I'm out now. I don't
It went too far. I'm sorry.
Now you made it real. Now you made it a thing. Fuck you. No, you live with your mistake.
Hey, furry force is already a thing. I don't dare Google it, but you can look it up on YouTube. And I'm sorry for suggesting it. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to look up
Oh,
on YouTube, but I am going to.
I need to be consumed by more hate. I'm gonna look it up.
Wait, what? All right, I'm sorry. Just remember, I'm sorry.
well, yeah, but you're Canadian. You're gonna say that.
Oh
Oh,
no,
no.
Semaj, you son of a bitch!
Oh no, this is bad.
Wait, did you guys actually do it?
This
I
is so
looked it up
bad.
on Google image search. This is
Look,
the worst thing ever.
the worst thing. No, hold on. They only made 2 shorts. It's actually on YouTube. It's college humor. There's no nudity, but it's a thing. It's a thing. Okay, all right. It's meant as a joke. Remember that.
No,
I said so.
I don't like this.
Mommy, no.
Why is there so many dicks on my screen?
I don't know.
Why are they so veiny?
I'm surprised you're noticing that. Most people say, "What? Why is that one's head so red?"
It's so red.
It's the purple helmeted yogurt slinger.
Why does one of them have massive giant tits and a massive giant schlong? Like it's just, I don't
It's the internet.
get this. I don't understand it.
Well, you guys. I mean, look. You've been on the internet, but you haven't entertained the furry community. All right. Yeah.
The internet was a mistake.
The internet was a mistake, and so was I.
I'm sorry.
I think I was more of an accident.
I don't like this.
Oh, which disturbs you more, the guys or the one with the 6 nipples?
The 6 tits is bad. The 6
That-
tits is real bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Like why are all 6 of them different shapes and sizes?
Well,
Everything is wrong.
the
Everything
furry,
is wrong.
the furry fandom, it comes in a very diverse range.
The furry
Yeah,
fandom is
degenerate
wrong.
and food. That's it.
Yeah, you're not wrong on any of those. God, I feel sorry for the audience. I gladly Google image search this stuff and show you what they're seeing, but I can't.
There's so many dicks.
What did you guys look up that I'm not like
Furry
paying?
force. It's you can image search it. I just say go to the original on YouTube.
You know what? How about no? If
Oh,
I'm hearing
yes.
Satan cringing from this,
It's so bad.
no, I'm not doing that to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And why is there a mashup between Death Note? Okay, because Death Note's writing all their names down. I get it now. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. Fucking Light is writing all their names down. That makes perfect sense.
I think we have cringed enough about this because Jesus fucking Christ. Why is this a thing? Why are these people allowed to continue? We're going to go ahead and shut this shit down before we go. However, Object of Hate is actually making a suggestion that instead of actually doing it at the times that we normally do, started at like 7 p.m. and then 2 hours, a 2-hour show just before APs will probably get us better views.
Okay, that's a good idea. I think
There's a possibility of that, and I actually am not opposed to that idea. It really does depend on Schmeckel because I think he specifically sets the scheduling up for these times because he has other shit to do during the day and during certain times. So I'm not 100% certain. I'll talk to Schmeckel about it.
Well, when we do our little nerd streams, we could always do them a bit earlier.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'm not opposed to actually switching the times and such, especially if it'll probably get us more views and everything. Not to mention I won't have to wait to stay up kind of late. I mean, it's not really that late for me, but at the same time, it is fucking annoying because sometimes I just want to go to bed fucking hella early. Sometimes I want to be an old man for a day or two.
I should probably warn you. I've already typed in furry force into Google. I just have to press a button.
Don't fucking okay.
Yeah,
you know what?
Don't bother doing that.
We're gonna shut this shit down. Semaj, do the Semaj thing.
This stream has been brought to you by Tenga Eggs. Tenga Eggs, go fuck yourself. And I also like to thank people who came on here. We have Magnus Deacon, Satan and Satire, Brockus, and of course myself, Semaj. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit like and subscribe because I'm a fucking shill, I guess. And Streamlabs. Give us money.
We're not going to be supported by Tanga Eggs ever.
I don't know. They followed me after I started doing that Tanga Eggs bit.
Nope, we are not sponsored by Tanga Eggs. We are sponsored by D&D Beyond. We're not sponsored by D&D Beyond in the slightest. we're not sponsored by anybody. Take it easy. Good night, cunts, and get the fuck out.
Gotcha.